hear anybody but Southerners say raring.
Raring to go?
Yeah.
That is kind of weird. What does that even mean?
I don't know.
I never hear it outside the context of that phrase.
I never say it unless I'm trying to do like a very Southern impression.
You know what else you don't ever hear? Hunkering down.
You can't say that in a distinguished way.
That guy over there, he's hunkering.
No, he's hunkering.
Hunkering.
No.
I've never heard that word outside of that phrase.
No.
Hunkering down.
Can you hunker upward? Can you hunker across?
Is that even a word? Hunker?
I don't know. If you say it by itself, it sounds even more weird.
Sounds made up.
Let us hunker.
All words are made up, aren't they?
Hunker while we wait.
Okay. Anyway, you ready to hunker down and do this episode?
No. Let's just.
I don't even know.
Let's not hunker.
What are we even talking about?
I don't know.
Who's hunkering?
Not me.
All right. Let's hunker together.
Okay.
Welcome, everybody, to episode number 62 of the Goulet Pencast, where fountain pens are still a thing. Still a thing, Drew.
Heck yeah.
I'm Brian Goulet.
I'm Drew Brown.
And we're here from Goulet Pens, literally, again. Still doing it. We're going to deliver this casual and informal, tangential and extraneous, superfluous and extemporaneous fountain pen show, where we talk about what's going on at the Goulet Pen Company and in our fountain pen lives. On today's show, we're going to talk about Grail Pen Remorse, our Goulet Pen libraries of pens and things, filtering pens out on our site by country. So how do you shop for a pen by country? Giving your VP some TLC.
VP TLC.
That's right. We're going to bring CY back from Tokyo Station Pens.
VP TLC CY.
That's right. We're going to have him in a guest spot to answer his own special questions.
FYI.
Several of them. And we have a hypothetical question. We have a pen spotlight on the new LAMY Studio Dark Brown, as well as a bunch of several personal shenanigans. So it should be a fun one today. And we're going to kick it off, as always, with our feedback.
That is right. So we are going to kick things off with our Brewerdon. And this YouTube commenter says, quote, ugliest fountain pens? Let's talk about 80s cars and curling for 5 minutes. And then our BB Don says, honestly,
sounds snarky.
I would have been disappointed otherwise.
Okay.
So, yes.
I like the direction that went.
Yes, we might have done that, but this individual was not super upset about it. So
we have a disclaimer at the beginning of every episode.
Extemporaneous.
That's right.
Extemporaneous.
Superfluous and extemporaneous.
Also, curling fact, Brian.
Mm-hmm.
I was notified by a citizen of Norway that the team you referenced, the curling team, is a Norwegian.
I think team. I said Denmark. Maybe.
You did.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I'm so sorry.
That's okay.
Norway, give you the credit.
Yes, it was our friend, the Torpedo Monkey. I don't know if you recall him, but he's been a question asker a few times.
Well,
all right.
Thanks for setting me straight.
Yes, we can always rely on the monkey.
Mm-hmm.
All right, and we also got lots of comments about the pens used by the royals in their coronation events.
Yes.
So we are absolutely not into what they're using or have been paying much attention to that so that we can deem ourselves experts.
Queen Elizabeth passed away. Heard about that?
We know that.
I know nothing else.
That is a fact.
Literally nothing else.
Yeah. So
I didn't even read a headline. I
King
had somebody
Charles
tell me
is
about
the king
it.
now.
Okay.
So there's a
what
king.
What does that mean?
We don't know, but there was a lot of confusion and concern in the fountain pen world because he used a fountain pen, and the other royal families that upgraded their terms and titles.
Oh yeah, because I guess everybody gets kind of an upgrade, right?
Yeah, everybody got an upgrade, but they all signed documents, and they all signed documents with Pilot V pens.
Okay, which is like the
varsity, I guess.
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Is that the V pen?
Yeah.
Or is that like the that's not the rollerball. The what am I thinking of? Not the. I think the V pen is something different. Isn't
really?
It?
I thought it was a varsity.
Maybe it's a varsity. Maybe it is called something different.
It looked kind of like a varsity, but everybody used a varsity except for King Charles, who used what popular opinion is saying is a Mont Blanc 146 Legrand Solitaire. So there you have it. I don't know what.
Oh, the V pen's a varsity.
Yeah. Okay. There you go. Varsity. So varsities and a Mont Blanc. That's what they used. The weird thing was that King Charles dipped his in an inkwell that apparently was a gift from his kids. So
that's cool.
Little that might have
you can do that.
That might have thrown some people off. Like, what the heck is he using? But yeah,
you can dip a fountain pen. That's
absolutely.
fair.
Yeah, it was a Mont Blanc. So we got a lot of questions about it. A lot of people, for some reason, thought we would know. So That's what I gathered to the best of my Googling abilities. But yeah, feel free to.
I mean, we know about pens, but we don't know anything about the royal family.
Right, yeah. So
like,
feel free to tell me I'm wrong about that, which is very, very possible. All right. And then we also got some positive feedback in regards to Brian's mention of whether or not you would like to see us include more coordinating ink sample sets to videos that included inks.
Yeah.
And lots of people said yes. So we're going to try to do that more. So thank you for that.
Awesome.
We'll be doing we did one for our chroma shading videos, and we'll be doing another one for...
and that set is now out of stock because we are missing several bottles.
The same will be
It's not that we didn't sample them. We literally don't have the bottles to even sample from.
The same will be said of the set we're making for my top ink in every color video.
Yeah.
We're also out of some of those as well.
Rachel was like, dang it, Drew, we're out of like so many of these.
So apparently I'm just going to need to like, coordinate all of my picks to what we have in stock, which
we're not going to do that.
Nah, I'm not going to do that.
No.
But
I mean, we'll try to have it in stock.
Yes.
But like some of these things are outside of our control.
What I need to do is I just need to let the inventory team know when I am going to be doing
in advance,
a video. Yeah. So they can
We're new to this thing. Well, that's why we asked is because it's like, it seems like a simple thing, but it's like, yeah, we should just pull it off the shelf. But like, y'all don't understand how much time and effort we spend just to get stuff, just to get it, just to get the stock. Like it's so unbelievably difficult for us to get stock on the things that we're trying to get sometimes.
And while domestic shipping is much recovered from the COVID disruption,
it's better.
International shipping is still pretty variable.
It is. And ink is heavy. Ink and paper especially, more disrupted by pens or than pens are. Because even during all the COVID setbacks and just the historic supply chain issues that we saw with, the last 2.5 years, it was never perfect before that, but it was even worse the last 2.5 years. But the challenge is that you can't just like, oh, well, instead of shipping it on a boat, send it on a plane. Something's made overseas and it's got to come to the U.S. It's like magnitudes more expensive in shipping, like 10 times the cost to send it air freight as it is to send it by boat. So when everybody's sending things by boat and stuff gets delayed, we run out of more stuff.
Stuck in canals, things like that.
Longshoreman strikes.
Yep.
All these crazy things happen. And so sometimes we just run out of certain colors.
Right.
And for a long time. And we can't predict that. So
but we're working on it. So
we're trying to plan ahead.
Be patient with us. Yeah. And if anybody has any suggestions to alternatives, share them in the comments. I saw a ton of engagement in the comment section this week, Brian. Just a lot of conversations, a lot of just people chatting. It was just so cool.
Awesome.
So if you're not a commenter and you just feel like you don't have anything to say, go ahead and ask a question. Like the folks in the comment section will always help you out.
I was gonna say, like, more of that used to happen on Instagram and some other channels, but like, I don't know, algorithms are changing and like these other platforms are shifting a little bit. It used to be the YouTube, there wasn't really a community. Like they didn't have the ability to nest comments and all that kind of stuff. But YouTube, it feels like recently has really developed even more of that. Whereas some of the other channels have kind of gotten away from it. So
I saw a lot of awesome camaraderie and a lot of help, a lot of really supportive and helpful, comments helping others make decisions and, troubleshoot and things like that. So
yeah, well,
y'all are the best. Seriously. It's amazing.
And there's some other things. There's like super thanks. That's something I'm looking into. There's like the ability to do custom badges for our commenters and stuff like that. Like we can create different levels of engagement.
Oh, I want to give out badges.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's stuff that we can explore. We haven't really talked about this stuff
yet,
but that's
about that.
Definitely something that we can look into. I'm exploring some of that. So anyway,
nice.
Yeah.
And then so I made a random comment about Archer, my son, saying the random phrase, "Oh, demon breadstick," out of nowhere while we were walking up the stairs or something. And my wife and I were like, "What the heck?" And you were like, "Oh yeah, kids." So many people in the comments were like, "Drew, why are you acting surprised that your son of all these?" of all people, said two random words that don't make any sense with no context. And I was like, you know what, y'all? Okay.
Get a taste of your own medicine.
Yeah, that's 100% accurate. I don't know why I didn't see it. Everybody's like, Drew, turkey hammock much? I was like, oh, okay, yeah.
That is true. Yeah. Oh, and he even kept with the theme, the two words.
I
merging
didn't
into
even think
together.
about it. But it's like if the people in the comments know me better than I know myself, because I didn't even think about it. But I was like, Drew, stop. You know why he said that.
We're going to have to do a demon breadstick sticker or something.
Someone already mentioned that.
That's fantastic. I love it.
So, yes, y'all are right. You're right. You know me.
Now, I will say with our kids, sometimes it's not that they're making things up. It's that they're either pulling something out of context and I just am not familiar with the reference, like from some kids show or some game that they made up that like, as Joseph and Ellie, they'll make things up together and it'll be like their thing that they'll talk about a lot. Not unlike Turkey Hammock, just completely made it up and now it's our thing. But they do that with each other, but I do the stereotypical, I'll say, dad thing where I'm like half listening some of the time. So they make references or we're watching a show or something and I'm watching it, but I'm not really watching it. So they make references to things and I'm like, where is this from? And they're like, it's from the Sonic movie or whatever. And I'm like, oh, that's news to me. I've only seen it 17 times, but I haven't really seen it because I'm in like La La Land as I'm watching it. You know what I mean? Anyway,
it's a good movie.
It is a good movie. I've seen the first 30 minutes and the last probably 20 minutes, I think 5 times. I think I've seen the movie once all the way through.
I don't watch half movies. If I sit down to watch a movie, I'm watching it in its entirety.
Yeah. Well, the kids will like turn it on a Saturday or something. And I'm like trying to do yard work. I'm trying to do something else. So I'm like finishing, I'm like making pancakes and they're watching
that sometimes happens.
We sit down and eat pancakes, they watch the rest and I'm like going to the dump or I'm doing something else. So I've seen like the beginning and the end a whole bunch of times.
Yeah. No, I take it. Usually when that happens, it's like TV series or something.
Yeah.
But I get that. And then one last thing, I was reminded, so thank you. I forgot to include a picture of Brian and I in 5th grade because we were talking about something about 5th grade. I think Ellie is in 5th grade.
She's in 5th grade, yeah.
And we were talking about
being like top of the class,
Yeah, and so anyway, I told you I'd put a picture of us in 5th grade up. I forgot to do it, so
whoops.
Here it is. That's us. We're not happy.
We're
not happy at all.
Wasn't unhappy.
They probably weren't great at telling us to smile or.
I didn't know what I was up to that back then.
But,
well, they had that was before digital photography, so
they didn't know what they had.
It was like you took the picture and you're like, well, hope that turned out.
Yep, there you go. All right, that's it for me.
All right, I got a couple of pieces of feedback here. One is from John Detweiler. After the panel at the San Francisco Pen Show, I told Drew I bought my first pair of cargo shorts and learned I could fit the contents of my messenger bag in them. Oh, this is like merging our two worlds, Drew. When Drew expressed his incredulity, I unloaded a Kindle Fire, a case for Bose noise-canceling headphones, a triple pen case, a double pen case, an A5 journal. This is way more than I carry in my pockets. An A6 notebook, my wallet, and my phone. Drew said he'd never tell Brian, and I promised I'd comment. So, John, your message got through anyway. Now, I will say this is a bit on the extreme end. Like, props to you, John. But I'm known to carry, like, I'll carry this, like, 24-ounce water bottle in, like, my back pocket as I'm walking over to because I'm carrying stuff in my hands and I got a bunch of different things and I'm like, I've
seen you do that. I've definitely seen you do that.
I'll put in my sunglasses and my phone and I'll have all kinds of stuff. I got keys, I got earbuds, my wallet, everything. I've loaded up before. But I don't like using the back pockets because I don't like sitting on stuff.
No, you can't sit on a water bottle.
It's really annoying. No, I've done it because I forget to take it out and I go to sit down and I'm like, oh, that's a water bottle in my pocket. It's hard not to notice that. But anyway, and then Pete says, so a quick note in regard to your Veblen Goods piece, talking economics. My dad was a director of a bank which specialized in syndicated loans. Think $1 billion plus loans to finance capital projects like hydropower dams, etc. That's insane. I guess somebody's got to pay for that.
Yeah.
Very cool. They used to get signing pens at the completion of the loan signing. These included Mont Blanc, Namiki, and to this day, he has a Montegrappa Chaos, Drew, your favorite pen, which were gifted to the signatories of the loan. So $50,000 on pens was only a footnote in the overall expenses. Yeah, I guess if you're taking out $1 billion loan, these pens would just be like a rounding error in the whole thing, right?
Accidental chaos.
I mean, it's all a matter of perspective, right?
Yeah.
It's
I have no frame of reference for $1 billion anyway, so sure, okay.
$1 billion it's a lot of dollars.
I'm aware of that, but I don't.
They're not building.
I don't truly know.
They're not building hydropower dams every day.
I never really thought about like loans for something that big. I just never really. I just thought that that sort of stuff just materialized.
We don't really live in that world, I guess. But I mean,
I certainly
it happens.
Yeah.
It happens. So
yeah, I can't remember the last time I built some sort of hydroelectric dam.
Yeah, I haven't taken a $1 billion loan in a long time.
Been a while.
Yeah, 100 million maybe, but not $1 billion. Yeah, it's I'm just kidding. Very much kidding. Yeah, crazy, but that does help. That's awesome, Pete. If they ever get sick of that pen, let Drew know. He can.
That's his dad. It's not even Pete's. It's gonna go. Pete will get it. He's not gonna let it go.
Yeah,
I can tell.
You can tell.
Oh yeah,
you can tell.
Pete's a chaos man.
Fair enough. There you go.
He'd get that in his hand and be like, "Well, this is surprisingly comfortable."
Is that bad karma to give out a pen called Chaos when you're signing a loan for a hydropowered dam? Like that's the one place where you don't want chaos to happen.
Yeah,
should be
one could say planned. That. Yes,
you no need chaos involved.
You need to give out a safety pen.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. Well done. Well done. All right, that's all we got for feedback this week. Now let's talk about some new stuff. All right, so we got some new things. We got some coming soon things, and we're going to talk about both of them right now. One thing we have is a new model from Edison Pens, based out of Milan, Ohio. Good old Brian and Andrea Gray there making some pens. So the Comet is the newest model, and they have 3 colors. They have Brandywine, Cumberland, and Sea Spray. So these are the same price as all of the other Edison pens, $169. These are made in Milan, Ohio. We've been to their facility before.
We have.
And seen them made. Great pens, great people.
It's not every day they come out with a brand new model either.
No, the last new model was probably the Ascent, which is the one that we did. Well, I don't know if they came out with a signature line, but the last one that we've been able to sell, because they sell signature ones, they do custom pens. They have some of their models that they do through select retailers, and we're one of those. So yeah, this is the first new model that we've had through retailer.
Production line model.
Line, that we've had since we came out with the Ascent, which is our exclusive. So pretty interesting. It's got I don't know what you call it in the top. It's like a clear finial thing in the top. I don't know the exact lingo that it is, but
it's like a half sphere. I don't know.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. An orb of some kind. It looks like it should have like a mosquito in it, like in Jurassic Park.
Definitely
floating in the Brandywine.
Yeah, the Brandywine for sure.
Yeah, it's got like an amber colored kind of a deal. So I don't know. It's not everybody's flavor. I don't think it's very much an aesthetic thing.
It's definitely different, than like far different than anything they've ever done.
Yeah,
they've never traditional. I don't think they've ever actually included a transparent element to any of their pens.
Not to a production line pen. I know they have for custom pens and stuff like that.
But this is their first transparency in a production line.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Yeah. So I think they had done what they do contests, like they've got a small team, like maybe 5 people or so, and they'll come up with different models and different variations and things. And I believe that this one came from, I think it was Jake. I hope I'm not speaking wrong. I think it was Jake that came up with this one. And they just did it and posted it on Instagram. A bunch of people liked it, so they decided to make it a regular model. So props to Edison, trying out new stuff, doing some cool things. They've got stainless steel UFO nibs on them and all the sizes that that Edison has. So good pen, and we're excited to have that now. So let us know what you think of those ones. Something that I'll continue on with other things that we actually have. We got the Sailor 1911 King of Pens Ebonite. So this is pretty cool. It's a black ebonite, so just, nothing crazy, more on the conservative side of things. We've had like King of Pens Urushi, we've had some other resin ones, but ebonite is it's like a hard rubber. It's got a special feel to it. It feels, they make these, for those of you who aren't familiar with ebonite, they make them a lot in the mouthpieces for pipes. So that's what I know. Anybody who smokes a pipe will be familiar with that. I can't think of any other.
That's not going to be a lot of people, I don't think.
It's not, but I can't think of where ebonite would be used, like outside of the pen world.
It's a very vintagey thing.
It's definitely a vintage thing. Yeah. It was much more popular in the early 1900s.
Yeah,
before,
it was like a
modern plastics
plastic alternative
came to be. Yeah. But anyway, now it's more rare to have ebonite pens. But it's kind of cool, and it's not much different in price than your typical 1911 King of pens. So they've got medium and broad nibs in the 21 karat King of Pens, which is like one of my favorite nibs made in ever. We are waiting on the broad. I know we have the mediums right now, but 2 trims, gold trim with a 2-tone nib, which looks awesome, and silver trim. So if you're interested in that, go check it out. We have them now, though I don't know how many we'll have or whatever.
Not many.
I think it's going to be a regularly available thing, right? I don't think
Really?
I don't think it's part of this bespoke line.
Oh, okay.
But I don't.
Maybe we just
don't
didn't
know.
order many. I don't know.
It could be that, like, yeah, I mean,
If you want one, buy one.
Yeah.
Then you won't have to worry about it.
Go check it out. But if you like ebonite pens, you like big. See, the thing I like about this is it's not going to be real heavy.
Right.
So it's going to be a really comfortable daily writer. Ebonite is great because it's hygroscopic. So it like wicks away the oils in your fingers, which I'm a very oily fingered individual myself. So I really like ebonite pens for that reason, because it feels like a little grippier. You can get a better grip in your hand.
It's very comfortable and rarely cold.
No, it usually feels, I mean, maybe at first, but then it warms up pretty quick because your hand oils get in there. Kind of interesting. It's got an interesting smell to it too. Mm-hmm. It's got kind of it's not like a, I don't know. It's not like super fragrant. Not like
it smells a little rubbery.
Not like the, what is it? The cellulose butyrate.
Oh yeah, no.
Like the Noodler's pen type things. But no, it's got a smell to it. You got to really get it up on those nostrils and smell it. But when you do, it smells pretty good. It smells distinct. And then the other thing that we have that it's coming soon is going to be the Pilot limited edition annual Vanishing Point, which is red coral. And so you can check that out. Usually they arrive sometime in September, like sometime around this time. We don't have them yet, right? No, we don't. We're shooting this on Tuesday of this week, so I don't think we have them yet, but they should be coming soon. I don't know the exact date, but anyway. Look out for those soon. Sign up for email notification if you want it, because they are limited. They only have 2,022 of them worldwide, and they usually go relatively quickly. They're collectible. So that's all I got, Drew.
All right.
How about you?
Well, we'll talk about this later during our pen spotlight, but LAMY released their last of their annual editions for 2022. Yeah. And we have seen the All-Star, we've seen the Safari, and we just got their limited edition 2022 Studio. And it is dark brown.
Yeah.
And this is one of their lacquered ones. It's not the matte finish that most of the Studios are.
Yeah, they go back and forth.
Yeah, most of their standard ones actually, I think all of their standard ones are matte.
All of the standard ones are the matte.
So, with special editions, they do go back and forth. So this one is a dark.
Wild Reuben was a lacquered one like that. Mm-hmm. They had a white one that was lacquered like that. Oh, there's another one. There's a couple of them. There was a green one, the dark green one. That one was lacquered as well. And I can't remember. I feel like there was one more.
Probably. But they're nice. They're durable. They don't scratch easily. And so it's dark brown with a little bit of a subtle shimmer to it. So check that out.
It's like a shiny finish, though, as opposed to the matte that you would get with
the lacquer. It's lacquered, so it's shiny. It's not matte. Yeah. So check that out. It's not going to be around forever. It's definitely a 2022 thing. So dark brown for this year. Super cool.
Yeah.
And then we've got a couple new Ferris wheel press colors. One is Blushing Mushroom. That's part of the Fairy Tales collection. It's kind of a mauve with, they say it's dual shading. You can sometimes see that, but it definitely has a beautiful rose gold shimmer, and it's a fun ink, and it really looks really good.
Cool color.
Yeah, it looks really good on Tomoe River.
Yeah.
Also from the Fairy Tales collection, which is just a collection of fairy tale themed. I think mostly Alice in Wonderland or Alice Through the Looking Glass themed inks that has the features of the ink printed on the box to say sheen high, shading low, dual tone. So that's really cool that they actually put that on the packaging. As far as I know, it's the only one that does that. So anyway, Blue Barrel Tonic is the second Fairy Tales color that came out this week. That's a periwinkle blue dual shading with also rose gold shimmer. And then another more standard ink, not part of a special collection, just in their standard bottles, is Spruce County Post, and that is a gorgeous dark green, Brian. This is like my favorite type of green. It is just a it's like what I always want forest green to look like in my inks.
Yeah.
I was really, really excited about this.
Green, people are very specific about greens. Like you just go a little
I-
bit off hue.
I
and
like
it's
all
like,
of it. I really
yeah.
do. I love a lime green. I love a Kelly green, and I love a forest green.
Okay.
And most in between. But those are kind of like, I want my definitive lime. I want my definitive like true green, and then I want my definitive dark green. Right now, my definitive dark green is either ebony green from Private Reserve, but then I bring in Private Reserve avocado sometimes too. That's a darker green.
Yeah.
But Spruce County Post is a lovely, lovely green, and I love the packaging. I love the presentation, so that got me pretty excited.
Nice.
I'm gonna grab a sample of that one pretty quick.
Yep. I got one more thing to mention here that we didn't have in our notes, but
please.
Twisby just announced the Eco
That's
Cerulean.
right. That just got announced.
Yeah, Cerulean Special Edition. Little side note here. Cerulean was the color of crayon that I found when I think I was in first grade. This is very early on, so it was not one of the standard like Crayola crayon colors, but I had like borrowed one from a friend or table mate or something, and I used it, and I was like, "What is this blue?" Now I'll say, the true cerulean color is lighter than the blue that really gets my motor cranking. You know, the Goulet blue that you see. Maybe I just like colored real hard with it because with crayons you can like change the hue of the color based on how you're writing with it. For whatever reason, like on paper,
You're not known
that
for
shade
your
of blue.
physical subtlety.
No,
I will say that.
not typically.
No.
So I don't know. I discovered that crayon, forgot the name of it, but just like that color stuck with me, and I was like, "What was that color? What was that blue?" And I remember, I think it was years later that I just stumbled across that color again, that crayon, and I was like, "Oh, this is the color." I think it was. I'm not joking. Probably a decade after that. It was like a very significant amount of time.
I'm surprised you. So that must have been very important for you to remember that.
It really
really
struck
like
me.
that blue.
I mean, look at all the blue stuff that we have around here.
I don't
like,
doubt that. I'm surprised that this crayon was the specific.
That was the catalyst.
How about that?
The catalyst.
All right.
Now, I mean, this was a long time ago, so maybe I made it up in my own mind, but I seem to remember that was.
But the word cerulean gets in your brain and lights it up.
Well, yeah, but then now that I look at the pen, because I saw the pen, I was like, I mean, I like that color, but it's not Goulet blue. You know what I mean? Like,
no,
it's not the Goulet blue. But then I looked at pictures of people that, this is weird. I looked at pictures of people that you use the crayon, and like when it was darker, it was more of a Goulet blue color. So I was like, okay, so I think it was that crayon color, but like a true cerulean color is a little bit lighter than a Goulet blue. But anyway, either way, I think it's cool. I still love this shade of blue. So Twisby's coming out with a color in the Eco Cerulean.
That they are.
So I'm digging it. But just a little fun fact, that name Cerulean is significant to me because of my childhood and the crayon that I never had.
Wow.
The one that got away that I then found. And then now it's like everything I'm known for is that shade of blue. So what are you going to do?
Okay. We've got some history there.
It's funny because I repeated that same experience. Well, not sort of. Sorry, I'm super tangent here. When I first got into fountain pens, I went to the DC Pen Show in 2009. I'd never used a fountain pen before. I went there. Other than just experiencing the show, I wanted to walk away with an ink because I had a fountain pen, but I wanted to use an ink. I had no fountain pen ink. So I went there and I wanted to get basically a Goulet blue. I was like, I want that, like what I remembered to be that cerulean blue. I wanted that same experience. And they were doing swabs. There was one vendor that was doing swabs of ink at a show. And if you followed us for a long time, I've told this story before, but they were doing swabs, and they did a swab, and I was like, yeah, give me that dark blue. And of course I didn't know. It wasn't like a total bullseye, but I was like, yeah, that's close. That's close. I'll use that. Turns out it was just like super wet. And then when it dried, it lightened up quite a bit. And I was like, lesson learned. Fountain pen ink looks different when it's wet than when it's dry, especially with these blues. It was Diamond China blue was the first color that I got.
That's still a really nice underrated color.
It's a nice color, but it's not Goulet blue.
No.
It's like more of a periwinkle blue. But when you take a Q-tip and you like swab it hard, it looks much darker.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's funny because then they gave me like an extra like sample bottle of Diamond Midnight, which is actually like, it's more of a navy color, but it was closer to what I actually wanted. And then, so I was like, oh, womp womp, disappointment with the first color because the swab is different. And then I was filling from the little 30 mil bottle the extra one, the Midnight that I got. And I knocked it over the first time I tried to fill it. So I was like, total noob. But yeah, I have all these experiences. as a newbie fountain pen person. But I was chasing after that same Goulet blue kind of color, even in the fountain pen world. That's how impactful that was to me in like first grade or whatever. I used that blue crayon and I was like, oh, this color is like nothing else. So, and that has not changed.
Nope.
To this day. I see a car driving down the road that's like that beautiful, just like, color, that Goulet blue. And I'm just like, I want that. I want that car. It's like some, I don't know, thing and something I wouldn't drive, but whatever. Any car I see in that color, I'm just like, yeah.
You've never owned a blue car since I've known you?
Rachel has a blue SUV right now. It's a lighter blue. It's more of a China blue color.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah, but I've never owned like a Goulet blue car. That's because I don't buy new cars usually.
Rachel's Toyota's blue?
Rachel's blue, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But
I don't see that one. You guys usually drive the black one here, don't you?
That's my car.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. That was our family car. And then we got the newer car and she got that and I got the old one.
Nice. That happens. Yep. That's what we do too.
Yep. Because I don't really care.
I care, but not as much as she does.
Yeah.
So,
well, she's got the family car. Like she's, her car is the newer car and it's like the one that we take when we go places as a family.
Yeah.
My car, I'm just driving for my stuff and I'll like go to Home Depot and throw bags of rocks in the back of it and stuff like that. Like I'm not going to do that in her car, So,
all right, let's do some Q&A.
Oh yeah, we're doing a Pencast, aren't we? Yeah. Okay. Anyway, what do we do? We covered all the new stuff.
Yes.
All right, let's do some Q&A. Here we go.
All right, question 1 from this week from Ruzzlegraph.
Mm-hmm.
So I asked everybody, what should we talk about in the Pencast? And Ruzzlegraph wants us to talk about remorse when buying an expensive fountain pen and not being as good as you thought. So lots of hype and not a lot of delivery.
Regrets.
And that happens. You can really build something up in your head and you can save up. And when it doesn't meet that hype,
that's a thing.
It really is.
Oh, man.
Have you ever experienced this?
I have experienced this more early on because my expectations were, I don't know, more across the board. It's easily, especially when you kind of first get into fountain pens, as you get into any hobby, you don't really have a good, I don't know, baseline. You don't really have a good sense for like what's reasonable in terms of expectations. You get an idea in your head of how something should be, or how you would want it to be, whether that matches up with reality or not. You just don't have enough experience to really know. It's not unlike if you hear about a really great movie and everybody's telling you about it and you have this idea in your head of what it's going to be, but then for whatever reason, it just doesn't turn out like you want, or a video game or a restaurant or whatever, or you go on vacation somewhere. Everybody's telling you how great this place is and you get there and you're like, yeah, this is not for me.
Yeah.
Whatever. It happens.
Yeah, we've all had that.
Yeah. And the less experienced you are in whatever like sphere you're operating in, the easier it is to have your expectations out of whack, right? So I think, especially because when I first got into fountain pens, we had very little money. And I was, trying to justify some of my own pen stuff probably beyond where I should have because we're in the business, right? So I never would have spent, my first pen that really was out of line of expectations for me was I had a Pelican M800 that had a 1.5 millimeter stub nib, which is not a typical nib that they have on there.
That's a big spend.
Is a big spend, especially at that time. I'd been in fountain pens probably 2 years at that point, and that was the most I'd ever spent on a pen. We didn't sell that pen at that time. I just bought it personally, and because it was expensive, I had all kinds of expectations about what it should be. Now the pen is really nice, I will say that.
For sure.
But it had some of the over polishing baby's bottom type of stuff that you sometimes can see on gold nibs.
Especially the larger gold nibs.
Yeah, and I didn't really know how large of a stub would be practical for me in my daily use. So I've been using up to that point like a Pelican Script 1.0, and which is a steel nib. It's sharper and it's thinner and stuff like that. So this one was broader. It was very smooth, but sometimes it had some starting issues. And that just and it wasn't all the time, but it was enough where it let me down, and that was rough, especially because I spent so much on it and all that kind of stuff. I've since gotten it tuned and gotten it, all taken care of and stuff like that. But that was my first experience of being it's nothing against Pelican. We still carry the brand and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. That nib is not a regularly available nib. and I might have just gotten a bum one or something like that. And again, because it was just my personal one, I didn't make it a big thing. But it was the first experience that really stuck with me of just like that disappointment. And, literally I carry that thought with me today when people buy, a pen really of any price, but especially a pen that's more expensive or a pen that's outside of something that they would normally buy. They kind of go out on a limb, and if they feel let down, like that's the memory that I recall. And I'm like, oh, that sucks. And I'm like, we'll do whatever we can to help make that right, like as a retailer, because that's such a disappointing thing. Now, that doesn't happen all the time. Like most people are pretty darn happy with their pens, even in that price range. But I will say pens that are more expensive, that is more common of an experience because you can build up in your own mind, what you think this pen should do based on its price. And sometimes that's reasonable and sometimes maybe it's not. So good lesson for me that I've carried with me. But it definitely, stuck with me as we've built this company. This was before Drew was even a part. I think this was like pre you.
We don't talk about those times.
Those were the dark days.
That's right.
The dark ages of the Goulet Pen Company. But yeah, it really stuck with me. And so as we built all this, actually we were really hesitant to carry expensive pens for a while because I felt intimidated as a retailer to even carry them. You remember a time, Drew, when like the most expensive pens we carried was like Pilot VP on LAMY 2000.
Right.
That was it.
We
didn't sell anything over $200.
We had 2 platinum pens that were near $1,000.
That's right.
We had a celluloid.
Those were anomalies.
Oh, they are. They were like, you showed me them once. You're like, hey, you want to see $1,000 pen? I was like, what? One was a faceted celluloid one.
Yep.
And then the other one was some sort of urushi.
There was one of
the black on black ones. I think
it was a black on black. It was like a dragon theme or a tiger theme. I can't remember.
I think the dragon was the oldest.
It was like a decade ago. Yeah.
Yeah. It was before the one with the sword.
Dragon one is pretty awesome.
The sword one came later after we had gotten out of the garage.
Awesome.
I remember we had those too, and they were just there just in case. Maybe one day we would sell them.
Yeah. We did sell a few of those,
and they just stayed on top of the shelf.
Yeah. But that was like a different league.
Oh, absolutely. And there was a huge gap between all of the other pen prices and then that price.
Oh, for sure.
We went from like 300 to those.
Yeah. But we eased into it. It was probably 4 or 5 years before we regularly started selling pens that were kind of in this range of what I would consider to be
luxury,
like truly more expensive fountain pens. Now, of course, based on your perspective, people outside of the pen world, like any fountain pen is
$12
is
expensive.
Yeah, exactly. You're like, you can buy an entire like shopping cart full of Bics for that price. Like, how could you spend that much on one pen? And you're like, well, it's like anything else. Anything else you get into, right? Yeah, right. So when you're signing $1 billion hydropower damn contracts,
free chaos.
There you go. Yeah. So that's my biggest thing, I think, is, advice to you all who are, it's a scary thing because honestly, you're spending a pretty fair amount of money on something, a tangible good that you expect to perform. It's a tool. It has to work like you think it's going to work. And you want to make sure you really like this pen because, pens you can get in this price range, I'm considering like $300, $500 pens on up. These are like pens that you would hopefully want to use your entire life and probably have as heirlooms to pass on. Like that's the level of pen that you're probably talking about at this point. And so I think about that. I think about a pen that's got to last that long. It's got to be good enough, not just that you like it when you get it, but that you will like it for decades. And that's high expectations. It is high expectations. So we try to take that very seriously. So my advice to you is, obviously spend time, do research, try and get your expectations realistic. If you ever get to a store, a pen show, you have a pen friend or whatever, try to get the pen in your hand because that will just convey so much more information. I wish there was a way that we could like virtually do that, but we can't. It's a limitation of being an online store. But we have one of the most lenient and fairest return policies, I think, in the fountain pen world because we try to be really understanding around that. And we will try to work with you all on that kind of stuff. So just, make sure you're buying from a place that you can trust, that will work with you if you, have any type of experience that things fall short, because I know it can happen. But that's the one that sticks the most in my mind. I've had other ones where, they've been expensive, but I've had a more realistic expectation. And I'm like, oh, okay, I understand there's some trade-offs and that kind of thing. But that was That was probably the one that was the most incongruent with where my expectations were. And it's purely because I was putting more into it than I think was fair. So what about you, Drew?
Yeah, I've definitely been there for sure. I've been disappointed in a lot of pens, and I think the longer I want it, the more I just gradually build up hype. It's like it's exponential.
Or like the harder it is to get, the more rare it is.
Yeah, obviously the more rare it is, the more I want it,
Right.
and then the more I want it, the higher my expectations get, and then by the time I actually get it in my hands, there's no possible way it could be as good as I want it to be, because at that point it's just out of control.
Yeah.
So for sure, I've definitely been there. I agree with Brian. Definitely do your research. We've got a lot of reviews on our site that are written by users and in most cases verified purchasers of that product, which you can see on the website as well to see if they've actually purchased that product from us. You'll see it. So you'll know whether or not they're being legit. And then you can always reach out to us. Our team is always ready and willing to talk to you about what would be a good pen for you and whether or not your expectations are indeed in the proper place. If you are concerned or if you've heard something that you want corroborated with us, we do our customer care team does all of the returns. So they see everything that comes in defective or not defective or things that people have taken issue with. So they have a really good idea of what gets sent back because of having these pens not meet expectations. So if you're concerned with something, reach out and ask them like, hey, what about this pen? Does that sound good? They're going to give you a straight shot. They're going to let you know. They're going to ask questions like, well, what do you like? Do you already have, like, they're going to really try to nail down what would be the right pen for you. So please avail yourself of our customer care team. They're fantastic. And then if you do end up with something that you're not satisfied with, that you did pay a ton of money for, we're talking hundreds of dollars and hundreds of dollars. For $35, $45, you can usually send it to a Nibmeister to get it ground
if it's just
perfectly
like a
for
nib
you.
Smoothing issue.
Yeah, if it's just a writing issue, you can get that thing taken care of. It sucks. Like, you shouldn't have to get something fixed after you bought it. It should be fine. Yes, of course, in an ideal world, 100%.
I would think of it more as like you're performance tuning it.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Exactly. You're customizing it to fit your specific needs, and there are many people available to do that with. So, you can check those out as well. That's something.
Yeah, when you're at that level of pen,
yeah,
I think it's worth considering that just as kind of part of the pen.
Yeah, and in a lot of ways, $35 that's like overseas shipping. So, in some countries anyway. But I can find a way to justify an extra $35, $45 if I had to, if I'm spending hundreds and hundreds for sure. To make it perfect, to make it exactly the way I want it, I think it's worth it. Again, you shouldn't have to, but again, customizing, making it yours, that option is there for you.
That's cool. Good deal. All right. I got a question for you, Drew. Okay.
You got some hard names today.
Lil Carol. Is there a pen?
Oh, AKA Lil Carol.
Oh, AKA Lil Carol. There you go. That helps.
Maybe. I don't know.
We'll go with that. Is there a pen library at the company where you can see or try all the pens you sell?
All the pens? No.
That's a lot of pens.
Absolutely not. That would be crazy, especially over the years. Like, can you imagine? That'd be like
thousands.
Its own warehouse.
Thousands of pens.
But we do have a couple mini libraries of sorts. Like right out here, we're kind of off a room of our photo office studio place. And they have a couple shelves. They've got some shelves for like props, things to set up their photos. And then they have another shelf with pens. We specifically catered our photo library pens for them to like use if they want to just shoot a notebook, but they want to have a pen with the notebook.
Yeah, as props, basically.
Yeah, we pick pens that have been around for a while and then will most likely continue to be around for a while, like the LAMY 2000, the Pilot Custom 823, the TWSBI Clear Eco.
Matte Black Vanishing Point.
Yes, exactly. Things that you can pair with a lot of different products that aren't going to go away anytime soon, because what we don't want is to have a photo that now is useless because the pen with, like, people are going to ask, where you're advertising ink samples, but there's a pen in the background. What is that?
You're like, that's a special edition pen from 3 years ago.
So we try not
and
to
you
do
can't get that anymore. And
so the photo library exists for that reason, not really a tryout reason. In fact, none of those pens have ever actually been used because we want them to look nice.
Yeah, they got to be like show ready at all times.
Right. So that's one library, the basic library. We have the customer care library, which are used for references. If a customer asks, like, hey, does this thing fit that thing? Can you swap this with that? They have a bunch of pens there that they can kind of say, hey, hang on, let me go check, and pop, pop, pop. check that out.
Yeah,
Not
those ones are more for use.
yeah.
Because that team is getting asked all the time, how does this thing write? How do you fill this? How do you clean this? Whatever. They'll be using it themselves. They're writing, reviews and things like that. They're experiencing these things. It used to be that we were writing thank you notes all the time, and so they'd be cycling those out a lot. But yeah, they also will get, sometimes they'll shoot videos for people troubleshooting how you disassemble a pen, how you do all that kind of stuff. So they've got some of the greatest hits, but theirs are not. They're not as beautiful show ready as the photo ones.
In fact,
theirs are more like
most of them have
rough and used and that kind of a thing because they're like inking up all kinds of stuff in them all the time. So
most of them were not pulled from our stock. Most of them were returns that were not in good enough shape to go back to the vendor or to go on the bottom shelf. So we're like, well, we don't have one of these, and this is a different filling mechanism than we have in the library. So let's just put it in the library.
And those we try and get a sampling because it's like basically for our customer service folks, they need to get a breadth of experience. It's not like they need to have an example of every like color, every special edition, every whatever.
Not.
They need a sampling of different nibs, which
filling
are sometimes shared across models. Yeah, filling mechanisms, different staple pens that get referenced a lot so they can take them apart and that kind of a thing. So theirs is more like the tinkering hands-on use as opposed to like the styling that you would have, in the photo.
Yeah. So that their library is more from a troubleshooting perspective or a product knowledge perspective, whereas photos is 100% aesthetic. And then we've got your library, which is the biggest of anything in the company. Which is both personal enjoyment, but mostly historic reference. It is,
yeah. It's my personal library, but it gets used for really both of these purposes.
And you don't really, when you select a pen to keep, you don't 100% say, oh, well, I like this, so I'm going to keep it. A lot of the time, you're like,
sometimes that's a justification.
Sometimes you do, but a lot of times you keep ones that you're like, okay, well, whatever. But this is an annual edition.
Yeah,
I need to have this for the completion set.
I go for variety, for breadth.
All of our exclusives. You always keep one of those.
I always keep our exclusives. Yeah, and so I have certain things where it's like, I prefer say a certain nib size on a pen, but it's like, okay, well, if I already have a different version of that pen, I'm going to pick a nib size that I wouldn't normally probably pick if it was going to be my everyday carry. But I want to have that kind of as a resource to be able to use. And I'll loan these pens out to customer care and we'll use them in pictures sometimes. Obviously, we use them in a lot of videos.
Yeah, Brian is very generous with that. He doesn't care who uses his pens.
Yeah,
I got not stingy about that at all.
Yeah, we catalog it and we got to keep track of all these things. But, we'll use them for whatever purpose is appropriate. But so it's really all just boils down to, do we have the things on hand that we need to when we reference them? If we have to, we'll pull stuff out of stock and we'll, if it's just like looking at something or taking a picture, we can still sell it as new. But if we ever ink up a pen, other than something that we've like tested on request or something like that, but if we've ever like inked up a pen and used it ourselves beyond just a kind of a testing troubleshooting purpose, then we won't sell it as new because it's not new at that point. So we do keep that in mind, so for example, like customer care, we're not just like pulling pens off the shelf, having them right with it, cleaning them and then throwing them back on the shelf. We're very cognizant of what it is to sell new stuff like that. So that's part of why we end up with such a big library. It's like, well, we need to keep this on hand and we want a lot of people to be able to test it and all that. It's like, okay, by the time we've inked this up and everybody's written with this thing, we might as well just either hang on to it or sell it as bottom shelf or whatever. So
yeah, and we've tossed around the idea of having, a bigger library, but it really just boiled down to the fact that photo needs theirs for their reasons, customer care needs theirs for their reasons, and Brian needs Brian's for his own reasons. Well, so
it becomes like anything else. It's like if you have especially with something like pens, because there's not a lot on the pen to mark like what that pen is. So it's very easy for things to get mixed up and, stuff to, somebody used the pen and put it back in the library and didn't clean it out.
Yeah.
And 4 months goes by and now it's a crusty old thing in there. And it's like, it can get out of hand pretty quick if you don't have basically a librarian keeping track of said library. Yep. So basically for every library we have like one person that's like the librarian that has to keep track of all that stuff. And you have to more or less like check it in. We don't have like a Dewey Decimal type system for it all, but like you got to check in with that person. Like, hey, can I borrow these pens? Sure. Snap a quick picture of them and they take it and you make sure to get it back and that kind of a thing. So yeah, it's a thing. It's definitely an element of stuff that we have to manage here, but it's definitely one of the more fun parts of the work that we get to do.
For sure.
An easy justification for like, oh, Rachel, I should really probably have one of these, to have on hand for reference and posterity. She's like, okay,
Definitely.
Sure. She says yes a lot.
All
or
right.
I'm just really convincing. Anyway.
All right. Next up is from Joe Colucci. And Joe asks, we should talk about thoughts on adding a country sort on the site.
A country sort, like
if
country
wanted,
of origin, country of manufacture.
If you wanted to find out where your fountain pen came from, be able to sort from, U.S., England, China, Japan.
Yeah, sure. I mean, we do get asked about this, and we try to clarify this where we can in our product descriptions.
Especially you can usually find it there if we're clear on it.
If we're clear on it, so some brands will clarify it themselves, and it's a point of pride for them, or it's like they're doing a lot of in-house manufacturing. Pilot Japan, they put Japan on the pen. That's pretty clear. Other pens, it's less clear, and so it is a challenge, because when it comes to having a sort and filter thing on our site, there's kind of like a certain point you have to have clarity around every product in order for the filter to be helpful. Because if you have like the filter is, Japan, Italy, and then unknown, and that's like 85% of the pens, you're like, well, that's maybe not the most helpful filter in the world. That's probably actually what it would end up looking like a little bit. So I'll nuance this just a bit. So, we it's not that we're trying to hide anything, but like there are rules and laws that actually vary from country to country that say when it's okay to say that something is made in that country. And how much of the product has to be made there, how much the materials have to be from that country as well, whether it's assembled or designed or whatever. So like the US is, like one famous example is like the Apple's like products, like the iPhone. They don't manufacture those in the US, but if you buy one, it says designed in California, made in China. They work with Foxconn and they're all made in China, right? So like that's a example a lot of people are familiar with. So that's one example of like in the US, you have to clarify things like that, like design versus assembled versus manufactured and these types of things. So I won't get all into the rules, but just in the US, for example, to say something is made in USA, a certain percentage of it has to be sourced and manufactured and assembled. And, there's a certain degree of alteration that has to happen to the product for it to be considered made here. Doesn't mean that every part of it has to be made here. It doesn't mean that other parts can't be made elsewhere, but there's a certain threshold it has to cross in order for you to call it that.
Officially, anyway.
Officially.
Yeah.
Right. Legally, officially. And that's all through, I can't remember who it is. Maybe the Department of Commerce or Labor or something. I forget who it is that like regulates all that kind of stuff. But technically, if you're going by the letter of the law, there's like rules around all that stuff, and it's different for every sector, and it gets super nuanced and detailed. So, for pens, it's the same kind of deal. So, what gets complicated is the majority of brands, I guess it's probably the majority of brands, certainly the majority of models, when you break it down that much, are a blend. There are components of the pen that are made in different countries. So what do you call a pen when the material for the body of the pen might come from one country? The nib is made somewhere else. The clips come from somewhere else. It's plated somewhere else, the trim on the clip or whatever, in a different country. It's, then like shaped and manufactured in another part, and then it's assembled in a different country, and the packaging comes from somewhere else. You could end up with easily like a dozen different countries or more where all these different components are kind of made. So
even something like Edison, which is almost predominantly made in the US, they still get their resins sometimes from US companies, and then sometimes
outside the US. Their nibs are Yobo, Germany.
Their nibs are from Germany, but you would look at the company, you go look around their operation, like you're like you're making pens here.
The packaging comes from somewhere else,
right?
Probably China. So it's like,
where do you draw the line?
Yeah, and again, there's rules for that kind of thing. So like I think Edison can confidently say like it's made in America because they're getting all these components, and then they're like designing, they are manufacturing, assembling, they're doing all that stuff in the U.S.
But if someone wanted to support or not support another country, even just by sorting by
it
that
gets complicated.
Yeah, you're not able to do that because even if we
quickly,
tagged Edison made in USA, where's the resin coming from? That's not listed there. So if you
Right.
are super against, the fictional planet of Pandora and Brian Gray is getting his resins from Pandora out of unobtainium, then like you realize, wait, you said this was made in the USA. I don't want to support that crazy regime they've got up there. Like, oh no.
Right,
And then
right. It
all
does
this-
get complicated.
yeah, it gets very complicated. We've got blue people attacking us now out of no reason. It wasn't our fault. Sorry, I'm a little out of it, but you get what I'm saying.
Yeah, that's true. So, I mean, it's a nice thought, but the challenge is, it gets so complicated so quickly with, I would say, the bulk of the pens that are out there. Not to say that necessarily anybody's hiding anything, but it is more complex about how they would even clarify these things. And depending on where the country of origin is for that manufacturer, they may have different laws that even say whether they can say it's made in that country or not. And the fountain pen industry is quite global.
Yeah.
And there's certain countries or certain parts of the world that are more known, like Germany is known for Bach and Jowo. They make a lot of nibs in Germany, and there's a lot of clips that come from somewhere else, and most of the ink cartridges you see come from Slovenia, and it's there's different little pockets of stuff that are are specialized in some parts of the world, but then when they all kind of get mashed together into a product, it's well, where is this thing actually made from? And somebody could make that call, but then each pen model that you do, well, now if you're sourcing that material from a different country and you source clips from somewhere else, you have to reevaluate that for every model. It just gets really confusing in terms of how you advertise that.
I'm confused.
Yeah, and it basically gets to a point where no one's tracking it to that degree. They're not advertising it to that degree, and so we basically don't have an answer about where we could officially do it clear enough to put it in a filter feature on our site. So without having the ability to do that, for probably a majority of the pens that we have, we're pretty much left with just putting it in the description when we can. And then you kind of have to just go digging for it a little bit, and kind of where the headquarters is for that brand, and where you can kind of assume that they're starting from. But I mean, most brands, there's a few a few of the major ones that they more or less make everything in house. But I mean, there's other brands too where they make most things in house, but then other things they'll outsource.
LAMY's one of the few that makes absolutely everything in house.
That I know, that I'm aware of for sure.
I mean, you've seen it. You've seen them make everything.
Yeah. But there's other ones too that they might have some that they make, but they might outsource some of them elsewhere because OEM, I forget what the acronym stands for, but that's when a manufacturer will white label a product and sell it under a different brand, or they'll make components for it, and then the company will alter it and do some branding on it and stuff like that. That probably happens, probably more so with the inexpensive products. The more higher end stuff with the more known brands are usually, especially if they have their own factory, they're making that stuff. It's not like they're trying to hide it, but there's other products where it gets cloudy. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I wish it was nice and clean like that, but that's just not how it is most.
Yeah, we could definitely make the filter. It's deciding what to put in the filter that we can't do.
And then how helpful the filter would actually end up being. It gets complicated.
It would be pretty subjective and potentially not helpful.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yay!
Yep. Cool. All right, next question we have is from Amoink. Ammo Inc. maybe?
The names are fun this time.
They really are throwing me. Okay, so care of the pilot Vanishing Point. I'm having troubles with cleaning and filling.
Well, it's not a traditional fountain pen, for sure.
It's kind of in a league of its own.
It really is.
Yeah.
And now I will say this, Amoink, not trying to call you names, but don't try to fill your pilot Vanishing Point without taking the unit out of the Vanishing Point. Okay, so you've got your pen right. You need to make sure that this is coming out.
Whole thing out.
If you do try to stick that in there and try to fill that, I don't think you're trying to do that, but
you're just covering your bases.
Just to get it out of the way.
Your bases.
We'll just go ahead and do that.
It would seem logical that could be a way to do it. And
potential, yeah. So
some people.
So definitely don't do that. That would make everything very, very difficult to use, if not impossible. So
then you just got to basically rinse water out through the front of the section of the pen because it's just it's not supposed to be dipped in the ink.
But if you are trying to if you're trying to clean just the nib assembly here. This should be all you need to clean. The rest shouldn't get any mess unless you've had some sort of inky disaster, which we'll cover in a second. But this, you just either use the piston itself to operate, eject, retract over and over and over again until you have it clear, or you can unplug the converter from that, rinse that out however you feel with the piston or with a bulb syringe, and then do the same with this. I really love plugging a bulb syringe into these and just blasting water through it. That's what I believe to be the best way to go, because it's got a large opening and it fits a syringe really
and
nicely.
These converters don't have the highest ink capacity too. So if you're flushing and filling using a converter, you got to do it over and over and over again.
Yeah. So I blast a syringe in there too. Get it done quickly. So these are pretty standard to do.
It's essentially like any other cartridge converter pen. Once you pull the nib unit out of
it's a grip section in a converter. Yeah. In a way, you don't actually grip it, but for all intents and purposes, that's what it is. Now, if you're talking about this thing, the front of the Vanishing Point, this is where it gets weird and complicated, because you do have some crannies and some nooks in here, Brian. You've got them both.
I usually hear nooks and crannies.
No, not this time. Not this time. It's crannies and nooks. So you've got a spring in here. You've got a door. You've got another spring that attaches to the hinge of the door. You've got a rubber gasket in here. You've got all sorts of crazy stuff in here.
A lot of stuff crammed in there.
Crannies and nooks. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That's why I said that. So I'm going to show you real quick with this one. Brian's going to be my cameraman here. You got yours? Yeah, go for it. So my Vanishing Point is a very well-loved Vanishing Point.
Okay.
And it has been well-loved to the point where this front end just pops right off.
Oh, look at that.
Yeah, it's all jacked up here, but whatever.
How'd you do this thing, man?
It's well-loved. I have used it a lot. But anyway, you can see what I'm talking about here. You've got a door here. This is where it opens.
Oh, look at that.
That's the door. And it attaches to this. It's inky. It attaches to this rubber gasket, which is what creates a very, very nice seal.
Nice.
So this can get all inky, all up in it. And inside of the pen, there's a large spring as well, which you may or may not be able to see. But this gasket can come out. It's kind of hard to get back in, so I won't do that. But if you can see right there, I don't know if you can see. All right, you can see that there is a square cut out where the gasket protrudes through the metal. That's where this rubber gasket fits back in. So you can totally disassemble this. I wouldn't recommend it. It's kind of a nightmare. Yeah. So I also don't recommend taking the shroud off of the front of this, because you're not supposed to.
It's not really meant to do that.
No, that was an accident.
Once you take that off, it will fall off easier moving forward.
Yeah, absolutely. But just to show you what's going on in here, look at all the crannies and the nooks. There's a lot that ink can get stuck in. So hopefully you don't have a mess of ink, but these are all spots where ink could get
Crannyville, USA going on there.
Exactly. That's what I was going to say. Yes, took the words out of my mouth. But all of this is stainless steel, so you shouldn't worry about any of this rusting. Nothing in here is afraid of water. You've just got brass and stainless steel. So it should be fine if you did want to rinse this. Now, scrubbing is another thing, because as you see, if you just wanted to take something like this, I have a baby bottle brush that I had from way back when.
I literally have those same ones at home that I use for cleaning my pens.
Yep. So if I were to shove this through here all the way, it'll open this door. But then when you pull it back, it's gonna
like trap it.
Exactly. So with the cup on, you're not gonna be able to do what I'm doing and move that out of the way.
Okay.
So I wouldn't recommend going in and out. If you did want to use something like this, I would clip it here, tie some dental floss around the hook here, and pull it all the way through.
Or if you have like a pipe cleaner or something like that.
A pipe cleaner might also, if
that's kind of like fuzzy.
Exactly. So you don't want a pipe cleaner to get caught on any of these metal parts. If you did want to take a piece of wire and attach to a cloth, like an old piece of t-shirt or something like that, you could, pull that through. But my point is, whatever you're doing, it needs to go all the way through. It can't go back, because this door will catch and stop it. You can't see the door with the cup on the end, but with my shroud off, I wanted to just show you exactly what might go wrong. So I wouldn't recommend trying to go in and out with any sort of scrubby thing.
Now, theoretically, maybe if you took like a toothpick or something You know, if you've got that thing crammed in there, like coming that direction,
Mhm.
if you take a toothpick and kind of hold the trap door open, you might be able to backfeed it.
Yeah, if you
perhaps.
get a toothpick in, that would
Once you
be a
can see,
way.
because of your demo version pen here, you can see how that trapdoor works. So if you still have the front, cup as you called it on there,
Mhm.
and you know that trapdoor is there, you can stick something in there to hold that trapdoor down.
Yeah, if you do get something stuck, for sure.
But even still, you're like sticking things in places, and you
Yeah.
could damage something if you
Yeah.
don't know what you can't really see what you're doing.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and another thing that I would say, if you are going to use something like this to go in there, another reason you don't want to pull back out on this part is because there's a spring in here that actually makes the clicky happen. And
Love your terminology.
if you pull something
The clicky
out,
spring.
you can pull that whole spring out. You can just shove it right back in. It's not.
It's like friction fit.
It is. It's just friction fit, but still, it's not something you want to do.
Anytime you're pulling things out of the pen,
Yeah.
you're risking. I mean, this is a pretty complicated.
It is a
pen,
pretty
really.
complicated pen. So,
yeah.
In summation, if you just need to clean your front section, just take it off, clean it like normal, like I just showed you. If this is the dirty part, there are things you can do. Just make sure that whatever you're doing, you go in one direction to clean, not both. And that's as long as you do that, you should be pretty okay. And if you do put a lot of water in here, let it air dry. Get it dry all the way before you put it back together.
Another thing I'll say, if you're filling the pen, a couple of things that popped in my mind, just where this question could be coming from. When you're filling the vanishing point like this, obviously you got to fill it from the nib unit, taking the thing out of the pen. The filler hole is all the way up here.
Yeah.
So like there's a square notch here, right at where the silver part starts.
You have to,
so it's longer than you'd think. When you look at how skinny this nib is, you think like, oh, okay, I just got to fill it. You got to get it submerged that much to fill it. So that could be a thing that you got to think about.
If you're filling it with a sample vial, you will need to tilt that sample vial really far. Yeah. Now you won't need to, it can still work because this is a really shallow feed.
Yeah.
If it was a big fat feed, then it would be next to difficult. But this feed is so thin and shallow, it can rest right at that, almost a lateral pool of the ink sample if you really have it tilted far. So it can be done, but yeah, like Brian said, it's like that's like a full inch right there.
I mean, it's not that different from any other normal fountain pen. Most fountain pens have a nib that's that long. It's just deceiving because it's so skinny.
Yeah.
You think you don't have to dip it as far, but you got to dip it all that way.
Yeah.
The other thing is the converter is not our favorite. So sometimes that converter doesn't have the best suction in the world. Do have a video on filling a Con 40. So that could be a factor in filling as well. Is just the converter has a little nuance to fill it easier than it might be if you don't know the hacks of how to do it.
And if you're ever having a hard time filling a pen or wondering if you've got a full fill, just use water to start and draw up water into your pen and see how much you can eject. And if you've got like 5 to 7 drops coming out, then you at least know you're getting enough to write with. If you don't, then something's wrong. Try to submerge it a little bit farther and use like a cup of water so you can eliminate the variable of not being able to see ink, not wondering if you've got it deep enough into a weirdly shaped ink bottle or weirdly shaped sample. Just using a normal cup of water, you know how far you're getting, you know when you're going to need to go deeper. You can just kind of eliminate some variables and then move on once you learn exactly what's going on.
Well, and what can be tricky too about the vanishing point is because the converter is like kind of embedded in the back of that unit.
You can't see any ink.
You really can't, even when the converter's full, you really can't see.
No, because the Con 40 doesn't get that full ever.
Right. So you can, once it's full, you can pull the converter off and you can see if you've got ink in there. But then if you do it to,
with too much gusto
or whatever, it's a pretty big opening on that converter. You can get drips and stuff like that. So yeah, it's something that, it takes a little bit of practice and just something to pay attention to.
Indeed. So there you have it.
Nice.
A moink.
All right. There you go. I think that's it for us, Drew. And
that is it for us.
Yeah, now we get to pass it off to CY here.
We do. So we have another segment. Mr. CY helped us film, and this is a segment he filmed while he was here prior to following the DC Pen Show. So rather than he and I, conversing about something, he's actually going to take over some questions. So we're going to pass along to him. He's going to answer 3 quick questions for us today.
All right. So looks like we have some questions from Instagram today, and let's just get right into it. Brad the Bear 1, so not Brad the Bear 2 or 3, but Brad the Bear 1, asks how a pen company's native culture affects their design language. So I want to actually tweak this question a bit. I don't think the native culture affects pen language or pen design language too much nowadays because we are getting much more globalized. But at the same time, I would say the local culture probably does have a big impact on that design language. And I am mostly familiar with Japanese pens, but also Italian pens. And of course, I'm familiar with the trend here in the US. But I think something interesting that you'll see is that in the US, you'll often have a lot of swirly resin pens, a lot of very colorful pens. People don't really want like black pens. And I think that reflects some kind of culture of individualism. People like to be unique. People like to have something that is just their own. So I think that the fact that the resin will always be totally unique, it will never be 100% replicated, that probably appeals to a lot more people than, for example, in Japan. In Japan, it's not really fashionable to show off. And it's not fashionable to be super noticed. So you'll see a lot of the pens to be more modest in their design. And it's not that Japanese people are, always conservative, but the way that they show what they have is a little bit different. So I think that's why Pelicans, Mont Blancs are very popular in Japan. But also playing with finial design, I think, is quite interesting and quite an elegant way to show off what you have. Obviously, I think Japanese pens are really good for boardroom meetings. It's really an understated luxury that the Japanese pen designers tend to look for, but it wasn't always the case. I have here in my hands another Japanese pen. This I referenced in the previous Pencast. This is a 1970, I think, 3 capless, which is a metal stripe. It's got black metal stripes here. These are acid etched. And this was created really during the economic boom era of Japan, where they had just started making the now famous bullet trains. In fact, the first capless was released in the same year as the bullet train. So you'll notice that the pen looks like a bullet train. And you'll even see that in today's capless pens. So I think the time, the place, and the culture all do have a role to play. Whereas Italian pens, I think, are a lot more flashy. And if you've ever met an Italian, you'll know where that comes from. But I think there is a sense of pride in terms of design, outwards design, a little bit more flamboyance out there. So to answer your question, Brad the Bear 1, I do believe that a company's local culture does affect their design language. We've got another question here by Caitlin Sveigart. I hope I'm saying your name correctly. If I'm not, please forgive me. The question is, what causes a nib to squeak? Now, this is actually a big issue for smaller nib pens. Nib squeaking happens when two tines touch each other and have a vibration which causes the nib to produce a sound. And a lot of times you'll find that this happens more often in pens with smaller nibs and pens with, I almost want to say, a bit thinner nibs. As long as it's easy for you to make vibration on the metal, that metal to metal vibration does cause a squeaking sound. So you'll find it more often, I think, on VPs, vanishing points. I know when I grind stubs or italics, they do have a tendency to squeak when the tines are pressed together and they have that vibration going on. And yeah, I think that is very straightforward. I think small nibs, tines vibrating against each other, making a kind of audio reverberation. So, last question of today, or last question that I'm doing. Thomas Horton 4, again, not Thomas Horton 1, 2, or 3, but number 4, says, would you rather only use 5 pens for the rest of your life or 5 inks? If I were Brian, I would say, well, it depends on the pen and the ink and what the definition of my life is. But fortunately, I'm not Brian, so I think this question is relatively easy to answer. I would rather use 5 inks for the rest of my life because there are so many pen variations that I want to try, and I think the engineering in pens is far more complex than the engineering in inks. Inks are mostly water-based solutions, whereas pens you can get different design language on the body of the pen. You can get different design inside of the pen. You can get different nibs. So there are just so many more options. And while I acknowledge that there are a lot of different styles of inks as well, I do think that if I had to, I think I would be happy with a good blue, a good purple, and then maybe 3 fun colors. So I think that's relatively easy for me to answer. And that's all for today from me. Thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed it.
All right. Well, thank you once again, CY. It's always a pleasure hearing from you. If you would like to hear more from CY, you can find him on Instagram at Tokyo Station Pens, and he co-hosts a podcast you can find on Instagram at Tokyo Inklings. They talk all about the Japanese fountain pen industry. So if you're a fan of Japanese fountain pens, then he'll probably have some new information for you.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right. That's all we got for Q&A this week. Now we've got a hypothetical, Drew.
That we do.
So did you come up with this one or?
I did just today.
You just made it up.
With very little thought.
All right.
Yes. So I want to know, Brian,
Okay.
if you could grant one fountain pen brand, like you've got a magic wand, you're going to give them the resources. Now we're talking like research and development and distribution and factory warehousiness. You're giving them the resources of one of the big fountain pen giants like LAMY or Pilot. Like you're basically like going to supercharge a brand that isn't an empire like LAMY or Pilot is, and you're going to give them all those resources. Which brand would you bestow those magnificent resources upon? Because Pilot and LAMY, they're the giants.
They're powerhouses.
Yeah, absolutely.
Ooh, that's a good question.
Or you could just like, I guess, if you wanted to, just
do it
make
ourselves.
You can just no, we would.
I'd love to have more resources
because then no one else would be able to catch up with us. You kidding me? Like we were just talking about how we
What's
can't
the
even
problem?
get ink. So do you know how difficult that would be for everybody else? Like, oh my god!
But if we have the resources, we've got the.
Oh, we'd make
suppliers
our
and
own
we've got-
everything.
Yeah,
oh,
that's
okay.
what I'm saying,
I see. No, not
Okay,
us.
not us in the running. Okay.
Who do you think would benefit from
Oh boy,
such a monumentous supercharge?
that's a good question.
No, yes, thank you.
You said pen brand, huh?
Fountain pen brand, yes.
Do you have one in mind, or are you gonna like rely on me to do it? Here?
Like I said, I gave very little thought to this.
Okay, so you came up with a good question and
Yeah.
didn't necessarily.
All right.
have
Let me think.
Okay, I'm like pulling up the brands on our site because I gotta like.
Let me
sure
think.
I'm
The
this.
first thing that pops into my head is Visconti, because I for such a big brand, it is a like basically you've got Sailor, Pilot, Platinum, LAMY, Visconti. Like it's one of the brands that gets talked about as much, but compared to all of the brands that it gets talked about,
Yeah,
like it is.
They're small.
It
in the
is.
grand scheme of
They are
things. Yeah.
way smaller than the other brands
Oh, yeah.
in their popularity sphere.
They're smaller than you would think.
Whatever you want to call it. So I feel like if they got just a complete massive influx of resources, R&D, quality control, distribution, like all that, I feel like they could, they would really benefit from that. They'd be able to, because it's like their brand awareness is there already. People already want the pen. The demand is there. They just, I think, I think they would know what to do with that optimization, I suppose. So that's what pops into my head immediately. I think that they would benefit from that a lot more than some other brands, but I haven't given it a ton of thought. Sailor doesn't need it. Like Sailor's not as big as Pilot, but they're doing fine. Platinum's doing fine.
Yeah,
I'm trying to think of like what brands would really utilize such resources.
they could truly benefit the most.
Yeah,
from
because
it.
one thing that Pilot and LAMY don't do is come out with a bunch of new pens all the time.
Right.
Visconti does. So
you're saying if they have more like production capacity, they
yeah,
can come out with more designs.
Right. And afford to do proper quality control and all that, them putting that in there.
Yeah. That's a pretty good one. I mean, that's a good one. I don't know if I have a better one than that.
I mean, and then there are some that like are just really neat. Honestly, I could also think about maybe some that we don't carry, like individual people. Like what would Ian Schoen do with like Pilot level or Ben Walsh over at Gravitas Pens? What would they do if all of a sudden you snapped and all of a sudden gave Ian Schoen a
400
massive,
people,
right?
yeah.
It's like, I don't know. I'm kind of curious.
That would be interesting. Yeah, I mean, like
Ben Walsh would be coming up with the craziest stuff. Like,
yeah, he would be. He would be a dark horse.
He would.
That would be such a shift. Like I
it
don't know.
was, yeah. It'd be terrifying. I bet you that neither of them would actually want that. That would just be like a nightmare. But
yeah, I mean, the other one that I'm thinking about, I don't know if this would be quite as extreme as yours, but TWSBI would be an interesting one. Now they have more production capacity. They're certainly not like some as small of a team as like a Ben Walsh or Visconti. But I mean, TWSBI has its own limited resources as well. I mean, when you're comparing it to something like a LAMY or a Pilot, they're the biggest out
certainly.
there. So that would be interesting.
Yeah, because Philip still answers customer care questions.
Well,
so
they're so solid as a brand. So like, yes, they would produce more, but I don't know if it would be felt as much of a difference as what you said with Visconti. It's a pretty good answer. That I don't know that I can top that one. That one's very solid. Yeah,
I'm looking at the brands here.
Yeah. I mean, most of them are either slightly bigger. I mean, you got like Waco and Pelican.
Let's go with Yookers.
They're fairly bigger. Yeah, Yookers definitely. Y Studio.
The Yookers Empire.
Traveler's Company.
A Yook for everyone.
Traveler's Company. We could use more than one pen for that brand. It's tough. Like Sailor comes out with a lot of stuff, but
a lot of colors, not a lot of pens.
Colors, yeah, but they've only got a couple of models.
Yeah,
like they could.
They really have two models in different different sizes.
They could expand the models.
That would be cool.
Would be kind of a game changer.
And then that would put them right up against Pilot. They'd be like Pilot size.
I mean, Diplomat. You could make an argument for Diplomat too. They've got the Arrow, which is like their
and they already make really high quality pens.
They make high quality, but like I know, is there more they could do with that?
Certainly.
Benu too. They're coming up with all kinds of creative stuff. Like their designs.
Oh my God! Can you imagine what Benu would do?
Like the number of things they've had to overcome just to exist as a company is incredible. But then how creative they are, and like if they had the resources of a larger company, they would be coming out with all kinds of crazy stuff.
They would.
I don't know. Maybe I'd go with Benu. I mean,
but they would.
Visconti's a very solid answer, but Benu, I think Benu would come up with some of the wildest.
Oh, absolutely. They already are. Can you imagine? They'd be putting actual. Like, these are the actual teeth of a griffin. We somehow we
captured a mythological creature.
Yeah, exactly. Well, no, we test tube grew both an eagle and a lion, combined their DNA, made a griffin just so we could put griffin teeth into these pens. So here you go. Oh man,
there you go.
Oh, tell you.
All right, Visconti and Benu. I think those should be our answers.
Two very different outcomes.
Different price ranges, but I feel like the spirit of it's similar.
Yeah,
they're highly creative, but could benefit from some additional production.
Yeah, an enterprise level, setup.
Interesting.
Okay, well there we go.
All right, solid.
Obviously,
not bad for an on-the-fly hypothetical.
Yeah, thank you.
You did better than me. I attempted it first because I didn't want to just throw it on you, and I had just garbage. Nothing.
Fine. But that's fine. Well, as always, feel free to use this as a writing prompt. If you have another small company that might not be fountain pen related, I'd be curious to hear what you would supercharge.
Yeah. All right. Next segment we've got here, we are going to do a spotlight on the LAMY Studio Dark Brown. All right, Drew. You
I have
got
it here.
New one in the box.
I have it here.
Still got the paper on it.
We're gonna leave the paper on.
Yeah.
All right.
okay.
So you have you seen one of these in person?
I saw one ahead of time.
Okay.
It's been a while. It's been at least a month because we had a sample of it so we could photograph it, but I haven't seen this.
We've got a little
in person recently.
puffy square here, which is good for people.
No. Drew, I feel like you're the authority on this one because you are the brown man.
Well,
more so than me.
Here's the thing, Brian. You remember the dark olive?
I do.
And
You had some feelings around that.
Well, I thought it was green,
uh-huh.
and you're like, absolutely no, it's not green at all.
I was like,
And
I wanted.
You
to
said
be,
it was gray, and
I want it to be green.
right, and you were saying, oh, I only see green because I want to see the green.
Was it that way? I can't remember. Maybe. Yeah, I guess it was that direction. Huh?
This is not as brown as I expected it to be.
It's dark,
very
brown.
dark brown.
Like
Honestly,
dark brown.
in this lighting, it looks actually brown.
It's like burnt espresso at midnight.
Yeah,
It's super dark.
Right here, it actually does.
Well,
look,
because we have this like gigantic light. Like this whole
But-
room basically is lit by this one light that's
but-
up here. Like look how bright my hand is there. That's what's shining on this pen right now.
but even our pictures where Glenn had it super lit up, it doesn't look brown.
Well, Glenn photographs it in a more realistic setting than what we're dealing with right
Yeah,
here.
that's true.
Like
So-
we've got a pretty focused light. Like he doesn't blast light on it. Like
So it's
this.
one of those. See, right now I'm looking at it and it doesn't look brown, but I look in the.
Well, you're looking at the dark side of the pen
I'm lo-
too. You know, so your eyes are thrown off
Yeah.
a little bit.
So,
little bit.
I,
But it's dark. It's really dark.
I opened this up and
You don't look at it and you're like, wow, that's a Hershey bar. It's
right.
like,
if you gave this
it's
to a person who didn't know it was called dark brown, would they say that this is a brown pen?
they would probably just look at it and think it's black
Yeah,
or
So
gray.
It looks more gray to me, but it definitely can be brown. I did an Instagram live late last week, and
You did. I
I
saw you do that.
Well, I took it outside. It wasn't
You're outside
brown.
and you were like, I'm trying to make this thing look brown and it just doesn't look brown.
But then I went over to where the customer care pen library was, and all of a sudden brown.
brown. So,
So-
it sneaks up on you.
So clearly, there's some brown in here. It's
You
in
just
there
gotta go-
somewhere.
You gotta go hunt. You gotta find it.
Yeah, you gotta hunt for the brown. Like I don't get it. So, I mean, it's a beautiful pen. And one thing I'll say that I love about the lacquered studios
Mhm.
is that this clip, after a lot of
Mm.
use on the matte studios, it can wear away the finish.
Mm.
If just you're clipping it on and off things. If it gets a lot of use,
Yeah, and if you're
it
like
can
wiggling it back
yeah.
and forth. Yeah.
But the lacquer is much stronger and much more resilient to this clip. The clip is honestly the only thing I don't particularly care for about the studio. A lot
Clip
of
is
people
very polarizing.
a
on
lot
the
of people
studio.
complain about the grip section. I don't mind the grip at all. I've never found the grip to be slippery or slidey
Really?
or anything. No, totally doesn't bother me.
Hmm.
The clip bothers me way more than the grip does. But whatever. I don't need I can ignore that. But no, I never slip and slide. In fact, one thing that I never have a problem doing is like choking up literally like halfway up the pen. Like I could write
Really?
like this totally.
It doesn't
fine.
bother you.
Not at all.
Man,
If-
I have no control when I'm that far back.
I don't mind. No, that's totally okay with me. I could totally write like that. So if a grip section is ever bothering me, I'm just like burp, 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 choke up.
Just choke up an inch or two and you're good
Yeah,
to go.
it's like I'm just writing with a 2-inch nib. It's fine.
Okay. Yeah.
Look at it, looks brown now.
It does look brown back there, back in this light.
What the heck? It's phantom brown is what it
It's
is.
phantom brown.
So this is the 2022
So
studio.
knowing that, I think you just, we're just trying to empower y'all with knowledge here about what this color is. It is a super dark, elusive phantom brown
Couldn't say it better myself.
that you got to find. Sometimes it comes out and just sneaks up and punches you in the eyes. And then other times you're like trying to show people, you're like, no, I swear this is a brown pen.
Right.
And you're trying to show it and you're like, I can't freaking get it to look brown.
Now,
And then you turn the corner and it's like, bam, brown, smack, right in the face.
another thing that a lot of people may not know about the studio is that it doesn't just so it has a very satisfying
It's got a nice little
cap,
snappy.
but an equally satisfying post.
Yeah, it does.
You might not know it to look at it because it looks like just a friction post,
Yeah.
but it
Yeah.
actually clicks. The base of the pen has a tiny little lip on the end
It
of
does, yeah.
it that snaps right on.
The snapping mechanism is like deep in the cap.
It's a really well-made pen. Like these pens are really sharp, and I actually don't own a single one.
You don't own a Studio?
I've never once owned a Studio.
Well, maybe this is your first.
I planned for it to be my first, but after I opened it, I'm like, it's not
brown enough.
It's not what I wanted. But there's not going to be another brown Studio, so I might as well just get this one, right?
There has been a brown Studio.
Wait, one that was more brown than this?
I think so.
Like a flat brown?
Yeah, I think so.
I kind of like this
like
one though.
Like a coffee brown. Oh, I hope I'm not.
Was it
mistaken by
lacquered?
that.
Because I like
it was
the
like
lacquered
the matte.
look.
No, it was like the matte.
See, I don't
color.
want. I like this. This looks classy. It looks elegant, and it's more resilient. I feel like it's not a fingerprint magnet either. I will say that.
Yeah, this brown right here.
I do like that, but
this was not that long ago, Drew. 2019.
Why didn't I buy one?
How'd you miss this one?
I don't know.
Is that brown? Maybe
no, that looks kind of terracotta-y.
It's terracotta. That's what it is.
Oh yeah, no.
I'm misled. Okay.
Nah. This I prefer this over the terracotta. This
terracotta's kind of orange. It's like an orangey brown.
This is like black coffee. I will say that. You know what? I think I just fell in love with it because I said that, Brian. I think I just sold it to myself.
Black coffee.
Because black coffee's not black.
No, it's got a little. It's like blackish brown.
That's what this is.
Brownish black.
I like it now.
It's like if you were to put glitter in your black coffee.
Yeah. Okay. Or maybe they're like the little bubbles in the coffee.
It's like when you have a really you just fresh ground your coffee in a burr grinder.
All
It's
right.
like super oily beans.
Selling me your pens,
and you
Brian.
got that oil on the top of it. That's what it is. The glitter. Your hair is standing up on your arms. The shimmer is like the oil on top of the black coffee. There you go.
God. No, I'm going to save that. There's not enough left. All right, so there you have it. That is the 2022 Special Edition LAMY Safari in dark brown. It is a dark brown, phantom brown, if you will. Don't expect it to be punching you in the face all the time with its browniness, but
it'll sneak up on you.
It's there. It's there.
It'll sneak attack.
All right. Is that all we need to cover on the Brown Studio? What are you doing?
I think so. I was trying to remember if there was a...
You're just getting distracted.
There's been so many LAMYs over the years. I can't remember.
For you audio listeners, Brian's just completely disengaged.
I am...
Just completely phoning it in.
I'm not disengaged. I'm engaged in a different place.
All right.
My intentions are good. I'm
trying to
find was there a past special edition that was more of a true brown?
Well, if we move
I
on
probably
to our
have.
next,
if there was, I probably have it, and I just am not remembering it properly. But
if we move on to our next segment, Brian, you can be disengaged appropriately because next segment is what's happening.
Oh, because you're just gonna talk your nonsense.
That's right.
Yeah, but you're too engaging, Drew. You're so captivating with your nonsense. I can't tune you out.
Yeah, right.
All right, fair enough. Well, we're gonna move on to what's happening, talking about the nonsense in our personal lives.
All right, so nonsense.
I'm still gonna look for the studio.
In my personal life. Yeah, man, go for it.
Yeah.
You don't care about Game of Thrones anyway.
No, I don't.
So watching the Game of Thrones show,
there was a Starbucks cup in one of the scenes, right? That I heard about that.
That was like the original season. We're on House of the Dragon now. It's totally different.
Whatever. I don't know what's going on.
Anyway, that's not what I was talking about. I told you a while ago that I was listening to an audiobook, a book on tape, if you will, but a book on 28 CDs.
A book on disc.
Yes. So I finished the first book of Game of Thrones, which is just called Game of Thrones.
Creative.
So
did the book come out first and then they made the show?
Oh, the book came out in like the 90s.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's super old.
How do you feel? I'm going to throw you off here.
That's fine.
How do you feel about books that are written after like a show or a movie versus like a show or a movie that's made out of a book?
It usually doesn't happen that way, does it? Like,
I don't know.
I can't.
Is that a thing?
I can't recall a book being made after. I mean, I guess there's like movie adaptations.
Yeah,
you know, Star Wars novels. Those are all.
Yeah, those came out after the thing. Yeah,
I haven't read. I read a lot of Star Wars books when I was in middle school.
Okay.
But ever since then, because back in middle school, like all I had was the original movies. Now they've actually made movies that covered the
books
fiction
that came out after the movie.
But they've retconned them, so they're no longer canon. So the books I read didn't actually happen. So,
Star Wars is kind of its own special.
Yeah, so they now refer to those books as legends, aka they don't count anymore. So
they've been discredited,
basically, yeah,
demoted,
yeah,
in the canon of Star Wars.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's rough.
Yeah, but they're still good. They're still good.
Yeah?
So
Okay.
I haven't actually read a new Star Wars novel in a long time, but I've actually looked into it. I know there's a couple good ones out there.
Yeah, you're right. I don't think it's that common to. I never heard about Game of Thrones before the
usually
show,
books
so.
come out first. Yeah,
I also don't read novels, so I don't.
you don't
know.
read fiction. Yeah,
I don't read fiction
that's messed up. Man.
ever.
Well, that's fine. I don't read.
I read 1984.
Okay,
That's fiction, but it's more like sci-fi, dystopian type stuff, political, whatever.
Yeah.
That was like the first fiction book I read in probably 20 years.
Goodness gracious.
Like
See, I have to force myself to read nonfiction. But anyway,
to each their own.
Finished Game of Thrones, 28 CDs. It's like a brick like that for my library.
So funny.
And well, I went back. I'm like, so I downloaded this app called.
You can probably like listen to it on YouTube. Like somebody's probably read the whole thing on YouTube
Probably.
and you stream it.
So I downloaded this app called Libby, which is an online library rental service. You can order digital books, audiobooks through this, but you're actually kind of supporting local libraries across the country.
That's cool.
You have to have your library card to get it. So I was like, all right, great. So I reserved the next book, from a local library. It's an audiobook, so I don't know why I have to like wait for it to become available, but
that is weird.
Anyway, I did that.
Maybe they have to like pay for the rights to use it.
I
or
guess
something?
I don't know. So but then I went to the library.
I just want to give you that library experience.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it's waiting. So I went to the library to return my old one, and then I saw the next one there, 30 discs.
Oh my gosh.
So I was like, what the heck?
That's so long. Like how long is this whole audiobook?
Oh my God.
Because I've listened to a bunch of audiobooks and
like 25 hours or something like that. It's long.
That's pretty long.
Yeah.
That's all on the long end.
But so the thing is, my new phone doesn't have an 1/8-inch audio jack for me to plug into my aux port in my car.
I don't think most smartphones do these
So
days.
I'd have to, and the CRV doesn't have Bluetooth. It's a 2009, so I don't have a way to listen to it through my speaker. So if I buy the CDs or rent the CDs, borrow the CDs, I can actually listen to it through my speakers. Otherwise, I need to buy like a Bluetooth adapter or some crap.
Yeah, you need like a thing you plug into your power
I
supply
ain't doing
that has
that.
a Bluetooth that play through the radio
Nah,
and all
I
this
ain't
other
messing.
mess.
So I was like, what the heck, CDs. So I've got 30 CDs of book now, and
wow.
I think I'm just gonna do this. I'm just gonna do the whole CD thing.
This is how it happens, Drew. People, you should buy the CDs now because no one wants them.
I'm not gonna buy
They're
them.
going to become collectible.
Oh, that's a lot of space. Those things are.
I know. That's why nobody wants them.
You know what? Speaking of audio accessories, can you tell me, as a former Radio Shack employee, Brian?
I was a Radio Shack employee.
Can you tell me what
top
sort of
cell phone salesman in my store?
What sort of witchcraft enabled a CD player to get plugged in to a tape deck adapter?
Yeah.
And somehow play.
That was a thing.
How the heck did that work, man? It's a digital signal going into an analog device.
Yeah.
It didn't.
Magnets. Yeah, it had like a magnetic like thing inside the little tape.
Was there a tape, like an actual? Okay,
there's no actual tape in there.
So
no.
what did it connect to?
It connected like whatever the reader was that would normally read the tape. It had some sort of like either magnetic signal or something like that. I don't know exactly how it works, but
kind of amazing.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. I mean, Bluetooth is more amazing. It's like, how does it just transfer it like through the air?
I guess
that's even more amazing.
I guess so. Yeah.
It just automatically connects to itself and just knows what to do.
Yeah, but
like
I guess
remembers the last thing you were listening to in the car.
That's so far removed from my brain. I don't know. I guess this is a
Yeah.
little bit more tangible. So like,
Yeah,
I never really thought about that. It's kind of freaky. Anyway,
it is pretty wild.
Library, went there, got Game of Thrones. I also did for the first time, I took a VHS cassette and I transferred it to digital at the library for free.
Hey, that's cool.
So I did that thing. It was pretty easy. I just had to sit there and, watch the whole thing, record it in real time, old school style. And I'm so glad that I am able to do this for free because you know what, Brian?
Is it really expensive? To do?
90% of that was garbage.
Oh, really?
Garbage.
Well, you said that. You said it was garbage.
Oh my God. I'm like walking around with my camera like, like moving it around like it's a toy or something like that. It was
a toy.
It was unwatchable. I got 7 minutes out of because I later edited it down.
Yeah.
It was like a 45-minute total recording time. It's an hour tape. I recorded about 45 minutes. I got 7 usable minutes. I'm like sitting there.
Well, we didn't have devices back then to know how you should shoot
Man.
this stuff. And you couldn't even really watch it real time. So it's not like with your phone where you shoot something and you're like, ugh, I'm getting seasick by watching this. Maybe I should like not do jumping jacks while I'm recording.
I did all sorts of crap like that.
And there was no stabilizing anything back then. It was just like raw, like
this was a
Born Identity style footage,
essentially a VHS record. It was a VHS-C tape, so essentially recording to VHS.
Yeah.
And I chose the first one I wanted to transfer was us at our little river trailer. I
sold VHS-C tapes at Radio Shack at that time.
There you go.
Yeah.
So my grandparents had a trailer over on a riverfront property, when I was a kid that we spent summers at, and I chose that one because I was like, oh, something that's no longer there, something that my family went to, maybe some sentimental clips would be in there.
Yeah.
And through very quick pans, I saw that no fewer than 3 deceased relatives were there at the time. But did I get footage of them? Any sort of lasting footage? No.
Nope.
Did I try to attach it to my bike and do a bike simulator? Yes.
Yep.
Did I lay on the back of a hammock and look at the trees moving back and forth, back and forth, back and forth? Yes. Did I record about 15 minutes of Ghostbusters on TV on an old jankety TV with an old jankety camcorder? Yes. Did I tell my brother, all right, stand still. All right, now move away and record again so it looked like he disappeared? Yes. Just
imagine what you all know of Drew now. Like 20 years ago, this camera was basically like what was going on in your brain 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And
I've got over 50 tapes of
so
of all
many
this.
tapes. That's so many tapes.
Oh my God. But I'm like,
that's an investment too. Those tapes weren't cheap.
I know.
I remember. I sold them at Radio Shack. Right around that time.
Did you work at Radio Shack?
I did work at Radio Shack. Yeah. That's right.
So
2000 to 2002, I worked at Radio Shack.
Anyway, yeah. So that was interesting, but I'm very glad I'm not having to pay for this because my God, this is garbage.
That's cool though.
Yeah. So
Look at you using the public library.
I'm starting to really appreciate the public library. I tell you what.
Did you know there's more public libraries in the U.S. than there are McDonald's?
No, but I'm so thankful. Can we tell other countries that, please, so that they don't think we're just like sitting around here eating McDonald's constantly?
I mean, we do eat a lot of McDonald's. More people go to McDonald's than the library.
I
That's
know.
for darn sure. That's
it.
for darn sure.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah.
Oh man.
There's a lot of public libraries in the U.S.
That's cool though. They have a surprisingly large amount of resources. I went in there.
Yeah.
There was an exercise event going on in one of the side rooms. People were just in there doing some sort of
Nice.
dancey exercise. I'm like, all right, public library.
Making it happen.
Making it happen. Bringing together the community.
That's right.
I dig it.
Throw on some Game of Thrones while you do some calisthenics.
Why not? Why not? Get it all there. And then I wanted to tell you, I'm not 100% certain on this, but we get a half day this coming Friday,
We do.
right?
We have another mental health half day.
So,
spoiler alert, we haven't done the company announcements yet, Drew.
my son watched an entire movie on the Quest 2 virtual reality headset. There's
it's happening.
You
He's
have
in the metaverse now.
You have Amazon Prime on there, and you have Netflix on there, so you can actually go into like a virtual movie theater. And you've got seats all to the left and right of you. Wow. You're in there by yourself. You've got the lit up aisles, and you can just watch a movie in there. And he said it was uncomfortable and didn't really care for it, but I still want to try it. And I was thinking,
sit through a whole movie with
yeah, I think I'm going to do that on Friday. I think I'm going to go home, pick a movie, and just kind of see what it's like. And maybe put my headphones on to see like. Maybe that's
really immerse yourself.
Yeah, that might be cool.
Plugging yourself right into the Matrix there, Drew. I don't know.
It's not. I mean,
it's how it starts.
It's no different than looking at a TV.
Oh, it's different.
How?
Next thing you know, you'll be jumping off of buildings.
Oh God!
Fighting Agent Smith.
Oh Christ! Oh well, I guess
that's right.
That is the next step.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man! So I don't know.
That's kind of cool.
I kind of want to try that.
Is it just like a straight up regular movie, or is it like a 3D?
Just straight up regular movie.
Yeah,
straight up regular movie.
Because 3D movies never really became a thing, did they? They tried that for a bit.
No,
not really a thing.
No,
we're like, no, we're good. We're good.
Yeah.
Thanks.
So I think I might try that on. I mean, I'm gonna watch a movie.
What movie have you picked it?
No, not yet. Okay. I gotta
what
see
are your options.
I don't know.
Can you pick like anything, or is it?
No, it's whatever's on Amazon.
Okay.
But I'm pretty sure I've bought a few movies on there. But I know that there's some James Bond movies on there.
That would probably be pretty
Yeah,
good.
I'd always if I could watch Casino Royale in VR.
Oh, that's a good one.
It's the best.
Yeah,
the
the
best
new Casino Royale.
Yeah.
Not the OG.
No.
That thing was
I never saw the
poop
weird old
show.
one. Yeah.
yeah.
So that's what's going on in my little world, my man.
All right. Very cool. Okay, my turn.
Yeah, why not?
Okay. Well, kids started school, so that's a thing.
Yes, it is.
They're enjoying it so far. Yeah, we're getting back into the carpooling routine.
Are they really?
Yeah, they
Because
are.
Archer hit the age where like he's just like, no, school's not fun, and I'm like, yeah, you're right. Because when they're
I keep like prepping my kids for that, but no, they genuinely. So
wow.
So Ellie's in 5th grade. She's tall. She's got my genes, and so she's like, queen of the school. She's like as tall as some of her teachers. So I mean, she like reigns over other students there, and she's knows the drill. She knows the whole thing. But her best friend, who has not been there
you talked about this last
2.5 years,
time, and then
not only are they in the same class, they're in the same like desk pod.
yeah.
So like they can pick each other's noses during the day if they want to. They're that close to each other.
That's what went through your head first.
Well, I mean, yeah,
okay.
It's weird, but that is the first thing that went through my mind. Is like
We
when
can
I
talk about that
I
later.
saw their desk clump together when we went to the open
And you
house
thought about
thing,
picking noses.
and I was like, wow, they're like really close to each other. So yeah, that's a thing. So they're loving it. They're having a blast. And so everything's good there.
Okay. Well,
So they're having fun.
Archer thought school was fun for the first 2 years. Now he's like, you know what, school's not fun. And I said, it's not really supposed to be.
Yeah, you're not really the best. Like,
That's okay.
you don't have like
school's-
necessarily like the best
I mean-
academic experience yourself, but
No.
Yeah.
School's not.
I'm kind of the same way. I like keep telling my kids, I'm like, like school's not reality. Like it's not everything it's cracked up to be.
No.
But
Hey, I'm glad they're
it.
enjoying it. That's fantastic.
Rachel loved it. Rachel loved school. She loved getting tests and all this kind of stuff.
She loved getting tests.
having tests. Yes, she
What?
genuinely loved taking tests.
That's
I hated everything about all of that.
Yeah.
Because I can't remember anything, and I'm
Same.
dyslexic and
Yeah.
slow.
Same,
reading,
same,
so
same,
it's
same.
like
Terrible.
all that stuff. But yeah, so I was fine in school. I like the social component of it. You know what I mean? I like the extracurriculars. I enjoyed band and other things like that. But the sitting in a class and just like hearing somebody go on about something and then having to remember it later, not my favorite.
No, I just couldn't do it. I
Yeah.
just thought if I could stare at the board hard enough, that means it would go
Yeah.
into my brain, and it didn't.
No, that's tough. That's
Yeah.
tough. But then you like graduate and you're like, oh, thank goodness, this is not how the world
Right, but
actually
that's
works.
the thing. It's like, how do you tell your kids that it's important for you to learn this when you know it's
It is
not?
important. Like education is important.
I mean, not
But
algebra.
it's different though. Like I talk to my kids and I'm like, so like, do y'all have like homework? Like, where's your homework? And they're like, yeah, we don't really have a lot of homework. Like they don't have nearly as much homework as we had as kids. Not nearly as much.
Like, we had like projects that we
yeah,
had to do at home.
all the time.
It's
I was
crazy.
ready for like, okay, where are all these projects that are coming? No, I haven't really had those. Now we had COVID thrown in there too, so that messed things up a little bit.
Yeah.
But no, they just kind of do things differently.
That's
now.
great.
Yeah. So I'm like, I hope these kids are learning stuff because I mean, not that I remember anything that I learned from like all these at-home projects and all that, but anyway.
I'll be happy if he graduates without any significant life-altering trauma.
well, that's
all I
That's
ask.
the dream right there for every
Yeah.
parent. But anyway, they're having a good time. And Joseph like is in middle school and he's, taking a bunch of just nerd-tastic pre-engineering and algebra and all this other stuff.
Nice.
Like he's getting into some stuff where I'm like, yeah, you just can't even like ask me for any help because if I knew it at one time, I certainly don't remember it now. So like, good luck, have fun in your classes, but you're just like, you're gonna have to figure all this out on your own. But he's like pretty organized and he's very much like Rachel. So they just like really like the whole school thing. And I'm like, great, have fun. So anyway, they're having a good time in school. So glad for that. Got my booster shot last week.
Oh,
So that was cool.
I was about to say you look boosted.
Yeah, I
just-
feel boosted.
Yeah, I was getting that vibe.
I feel like I've got some kind of superpower now.
Well, I wasn't going to say that, but
I do.
yeah.
But no, it was good. And like we scheduled it for Friday because like we were like, okay, we don't know how we're gonna react.
Wise.
Rachel's had more reactions than I have to all these shots so far. I refuse to submit to any symptoms.
That's how it works.
Yeah. So I was like, yeah, we'll take it easy. But I was like, got our shots on Friday. I did a whole bunch of stuff, of course, because I always do stuff. And then I woke up on Saturday and I was like, well, I need to mow the lawn. So I like mowed the lawn, did that. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to replace the flooring in my shed that's full of stuff.
Which shed?
My bigger shed, my newer shed. So it's got a floor on it. I've got the lawnmower. I've got a ton of tools in there and stuff like that. But I've like building shelving in there.
So replacing the floor, is that just putting on new plyboard?
Well, the floor itself is okay, but I wanted to do like flooring on top of it. So I bought like vinyl plank flooring.
Oh,
You know,
okay.
it's cheap stuff.
Yeah.
You know, because it's a shed. Let's be real. But you know, I've got like, you know, small engines in there, and I'm spilling oil, and it gets dirty all the time. So I wanted to get a, you know, replaceable kind of a floor so that if I spill stuff,
yeah.
you know, I can just replace the planks and like that kind of a
Nice.
thing.
Good call.
So I bought these planks when I bought the shed originally, but I immediately started filling the shed with stuff.
Of course.
And I just filled it with more and more stuff. And I was like, this is going to be a pain to do this. So I don't know why I decided, when I'm like achy, I was a little bit achy, but I was like, I think it's because Rachel and I cleared a whole weekend because we were like, we might not feel well. And I was like, well, my whole weekend's clear. This would kind of be
time for
like,
activities.
like it's not blazing hot anymore. Now it's like in the 70s, 80s around here. And, you know, the weather was nice. And I was like, you know, I could take some of the stuff out of the shed and, you know, I can just like take the stuff off one wall, kind of move it over, you know, clean the floor underneath, lay down these planks. You know, it's just like sticky back stuff. So it's like a vinyl plank. You just peel the stuff off, you stick it on the floor.
They don't hook together at all?
And that's it. No, it's literally just like stickers.
Oh,
You're
nice.
just like,
oh, yeah.
you know. But it's like, it's a fairly good sized shed. And I had to move all the junk and then wash the floor and dry it and all that kind of stuff. So it was like a bit of work, but I got the whole thing done on Saturday. So
Nice. Got all the stuff back in there.
Everything's back in there.
Nice.
I didn't take most of it out. I
And now you
just
can
like
get it
moved
super dirty without
it was
care.
it was like, you know, 6 inch by 3 feet, like planks. So I just like kind of, I just had to move enough stuff really to be able to like have the little working space, stick the planks down, then just moved all the crap back onto the planks. So it was like one of the easier install jobs I've done for that kind of a thing. And because it's a shed, I was like, whatever. Okay. Yeah.
You're the only one that's going to see it.
No, I'm the only one that's going to see it. Yeah. So I did that all day Saturday. And now it's like, it looks too nice now. Now it's a shed, but it's like a fake wood, like a fake walnut. I was like, it looks like I have like wood flooring in my shed.
Nice.
But I don't know. It makes me happy. I go in there and I'm like, I can keep it clean easier. And, you know, it's kind of fun.
Honestly, maybe that'll have a psychological effect on you as far as like keeping it clean because it looks like more nice than it has any right to look.
Yeah.
You're going to be
now
like,
there's
okay.
like leaves and crap all over. I'm like, get those leaves out.
Yeah.
I don't want those things, you know.
This is my shed. This is my fancy shed.
Exactly.
Leaves don't belong in my fancy shed.
So did some flooring in my shed. Also patched some spots in my driveway as well. Because I'm like, now I'm thinking like, oh, okay, like summer's waning. You know, it's going to start getting cooler again. So I'm thinking like, oh, everything I need to do outdoors that requires like warmer temperatures, I'm running out of time now because I'm going to like spin around twice and we're going to be in the cold again.
Yeah, we don't Virginia doesn't really have but 2 seasons. We've got summer and winter.
They transition. I mean, you get a spring
There's a
and a
very
fall.
short transition.
But it's
Anybody that says, "Oh, my favorite season is the spring or fall,"
or fall.
What they're really saying is my favorite season is that 2-week period where it's not
like
miserable.
Perfect temperature. Yeah. I mean, fall in Virginia is basically all 4 seasons just on any given day.
Yeah.
Like it can swing 30 degrees in a day.
Yeah, same with spring.
Yeah. It can be freezing. It could snow.
Yeah.
You know, it could be blazing hot.
Yep.
3 days later, you know, it just goes all over the place. So yeah, I'm thinking like, you know, and all the outdoor stuff that I need to do that's temperature dependent, like letting, you know, crack filler seal up on the driveway. I'm like, let me do all these things because winter is coming and then the water is going to get in the cracks on my driveway and then it's going to freeze and then it's going to make the cracks bigger. And so I'm like, okay, let me just go patch all
I
that
need to
junk
power
out.
wash my driveway.
Yeah.
I've got like dirt all up in the cracks and crevices. Making it all jankety.
That's been the problem since COVID. I've been spending a lot more time at home. So like mentally, I'm so much more aware of all the things that need to be done.
Do you ever do that
so
thing?
It's just like more on my mind.
So with me, I, come into the office every day, go home, every day. And the path that I walk between my car and the entrance to the house, like that's, I notice so many things that make me mad about the house from there to there.
Yeah.
Like I notice every little like sucker coming up out of the mulch from my shrubs. I'm like, I got rid of that.
That's right.
Or like cobwebs, a weird thing on the deck. Like that walk is just the worst. I notice so many things that I don't ever have the time to do. So
just like fix all that stuff. Just do it all.
I don't like doing that like you do though. I have to like.
I don't like doing it either, but I like.
I think you do.
Okay, sometimes I do.
Yeah.
I like having it done.
I like having it done too, but
That's what's motivating. And
it's not
like
that big a deal. It's just very nitpicky. The walk to the door.
I tell you what, the difference for me was, so I have, it's almost become ritualistic. So I was like, we've been in this house for over 10 years. I did almost nothing on this house for like 8 straight years.
Oh, wow.
We moved in. I did so much work on our first house that we had. Then we moved into this house. Plus the business was insane and our kids were young and all that stuff. So we got a house that was, I won't say move-in ready, but it was move-in acceptable. So, you know, it was like if a major appliance dies, I'll replace it. But other than that, I'm not doing a dang thing. So I didn't do anything around the house for quite some time. And then it was like, yeah, there's a bunch of stuff that kind of needs to be done. Where it's like, yeah, that color in this room really is disgusting. We should really paint that. And, you know, and Rachel was great. She was very patient with me. But like I've been on a tear in the last couple of years and have taken care of so much of that stuff. But like having the right gear, having the right, honestly, having the right clothing, like having the right stuff. So I have like work clothing, like outdoor work clothing. Mm-hmm. So it's like, whatever, if I finish, like say I finish work earlier, it's like we finish dinner and everybody's kind of doing whatever and there's sunlight out there. I'll change into like my dirty, like outdoor work clothes. And then I'll just like go out and I'll pick weeds and I'll just do all that stuff.
It's like a different, it's like a paradigm shift.
Yeah. It's that same, yeah. It's like the, you know, it's like if you're going to exercise or something like that, if you put on like exercise clothing, you get more in the zone, you kind of get more into it. It's the same kind of thing. I have like outdoor work clothes. And then it's like, you know, normally I would be like, oh, I don't want to go over and pick that thing. My hand's going to get all dirty and blah, and then I feel sweaty and all that. But if it's like, if I'm in my clothes where I'm going to be sweaty anyway, like, sure, yeah, I'll just go pick up that thing. It's just like less of a barrier. So that's been a game changer for me.
That's actually a good piece of advice.
Yeah. And then like what is cool is like, as I pass like the areas that I see all the time, I'm like, yeah, I did that, you know, and I want to keep it up more. And now it's like, I see a few weeds and I'm like, oh, no. And I'll like go and pick those weeds out. And it's like 2 minutes instead of like 2 hours.
That's me in my mailbox every day.
Yeah.
Like I've got those like fluffy grass things, whatever those are called. And then within those, there's all sorts of weed offshoots. So I'm always like, where you at?
Oh yeah.
I always see them every day.
But everybody feels that way.
Get the mail, pick the weeds.
Yeah. I mentioned a little while ago how I had that like demon fan in our bathroom that just the poltergeist, it just turns itself on.
Light operated?
It was a moisture sensing.
Well, that was it. Yeah, moisture sensing. But it's been so humid that it's been turning on too much.
Yeah, but like the one in the kids' bathroom doesn't. The one in the kids' bathroom has been great because they always forget to turn on their fan when they shower.
Right.
So that's been great. But the one in our bathroom was just kicking on all the time, and like we can hear it in our bedroom. We're trying.
That wasn't the demon fan though.
That was the demon one. No, the one in our.
Oh,
our
okay.
Yeah. Gotcha. So it was just annoying, and I didn't feel like troubleshooting it, so I just replaced it back to the old switch. So,
you put the demon fan back?
No, the demon switch is now out. It was the switch, the moisture sensing switch. Was causing the fan to turn on sporadically throughout the night.
Okay.
So I don't know if it's faulty or whatever, but I don't feel like diagnosing it. So I just
the kids one was the one you really needed.
That was the one I really needed, and I was just like, oh, it'd be nice to have it in the other bathrooms. And I was like, no, unintended consequences. So that took care of that one. We got a new microwave.
Ooh.
Which, hey, if you want a microwave, Drew, I have an old microwave.
I have.
We're sans microwave.
2 years with no microwave over here.
Wow, I don't know how you do it, man. I don't know how you do it. But yeah, so we went above range on the microwave.
I did that once before.
We have Rachel and I have never had an above range microwave.
I installed one in my old house. It was one of the really thin ones.
Oh, interesting.
It was like a really narrow one because it really you don't put. I'm not going to put a turkey in there. As long as it can fit a bag of popcorn. That's all you need.
That's pretty much.
But
you're eating a couple slices of pizza. You don't need a huge microwave.
It wasn't as hard as I thought it would be.
No, it's really not.
With the mounting bracket and everything like that. But I wasn't dealing with any tile or backsplash though. Did you?
Yeah, no. We just have a painted drywall. Okay, cool. So I didn't have to deal with.
Did you have an outlet already in the cabinet above?
So there was wiring, but I had to do some rerouting of the wiring. Okay. It was hardwired. We had like a range vent hood thing that just like vented back into the kitchen. Mm-hmm. There was no external duct or anything like that to deal with. So I just took that thing out of there. I had to fish with the wire back up into the cabinet because the cord was like a plug-in, like a 3-prong plug. Mm-hmm. So I needed to like install a box and do an outlet and the whole thing, and I couldn't do that where the microwave literally was.
I was lucky, but there was already a plug up there.
Yeah, so I had to do that, but that's easy stuff. I didn't even have to buy anything. I have all that crap just from projects I've done over the years.
And now you've got extra room on the counter.
Yeah, it's weird. We've never had not a microwave on the counter. And now it's like, wow, this is kind of game changing.
That's the reason we don't have one, is just we just kind of don't have room for it.
Yeah.
They're just so big and obnoxious.
They are big.
And for as much as you use them, like
See, we use ours a lot though. We use ours a lot.
I mean, I guess it's been 2 years. I guess we don't really
I
need
mean, it's
it.
been 2 years already. Then
It's been.
I
I mean,
guess
it'd definitely be handy for leftovers and stuff. But
sure.
we made it this long.
You need a fun cooker. That's what you need, Drew.
The Pontiac
Deep
Aztec.
cut 30 Rock reference there. And then I did some electrical in my kitchen as well because we had this big friggin' ugly like 4-tube fluorescent light in the middle of our kitchen, and the ballasts were starting to go.
I remember that thing. It's like a big square, right?
It's a big square.
Yeah.
And it's like built into the whole frame of the. Oh, it's just obnoxious.
Did you have to paint?
Thing. Well, I didn't like tear that whole thing out. I just replaced the ballasts and the whole fixture with like LED.
Oh,
stuff.
cool.
So I have like these like shop tube lights that I've used in our garage and stuff like that, and some of my sheds. So I just bought a couple more of those. They're fairly cheap, and I just stuck them in there. They're like, I didn't even have the room to like put them in there straight because I didn't want to rip out the whole fixture because then it would have been a whole project. So they're like stuck in there like diagonally. And Rachel was
No
like,
one's gonna
why
know.
are those diagonal? And I was like, because it's temporary.
I mean, it's just gonna be a big.
But it's like
square.
it's not like flickering anymore.
Yeah, no, it's gonna be a
you
big
know?
square of light. You're not gonna
Yeah.
notice once everything's in there, right?
But I know, like anything you do, kitchens and bathrooms, you do anything in a kitchen and bathroom, and then it's a whole like thing. It's like pulling a thread on a sweater. So I told Rachel, I was like, I know if I go and I start tearing drywall and I do something with that light, then you're gonna be looking at cabinets. You're gonna want all this other stuff done, and we just don't have the capacity for that right now. So I was like, I'm gonna stick these tube lights in here diagonally, and it's gonna not flicker, and it's gonna be there, and just deal with it.
There you go.
And she's been fine. So now we have diagonal light that's not flickering. So I've just been trying to like knock out all these random stupid projects.
That's impressive.
Yeah, this is what I do. It was like midnight on Sunday or something like that. I was replacing lights in my kitchen. This is what I do.
Yeah, you're just reminding me of all the things I'm not doing. Thanks, Brian.
Well, it's not everything in life. You have a lot of good times.
You have
a lot of memories. You have hobbies. My hobby is working.
I've got a bathroom.
Spending time with my family and doing crap around my house. That's
I've got a bathroom fan that you can see the attic through because the new fan was smaller than the old fan, and so I need to patch drywall up there. I have another area where I need to patch and paint. I've got another light fixture that same thing. The new one was smaller than the old one, so
it never ends, man. It never ends.
I wasn't thinking about it until you had to go all Tim Taylor on me. So
you weren't thinking about it there, but it came up pretty quick. It's not that deep below the surface.
It's not.
I know. This is how it goes. You go around the house and you're just like, walking from one room to the other. I don't know if you're like me, but like I'm like RoboCop. I walk around my house, and I do it here at the office too. I walk around the house and I'm just like, that thing needs to be painted. That, electrical outlet's missing a screw on the plate. That, and I see like everything needs to be done.
I do. I don't look for it, but it just jumps out at me.
It does. I can't not
taunts
see it.
me and mocks me for not doing it.
And then I like forget it when I walk to the next room, but then every time I walk by, I see it
yes.
over and over and over again.
100%.
One day I'm in the garage and I'm like, you know what? That dang plate needed a screw. I'm at the screws. Let me go do it. And then
I need to start writing it down. I could use that to journal a little bit more. Like I need to journal more about to-do lists.
Yeah, it helps. It helps. Yeah, it's whatever catches your attention at the time.
Yeah, I need to do that.
Yep. Anyway, we've gone on about how much work we have to do around our houses.
Yeah, want to do some company updates?
Yeah, let's do it, and then we can wrap this sucker up. All right, just a couple of quick company updates. Drew already let this cat out of the metaphorical bag, but we have we have a mental health half day today, technically, because this is publishing on Friday. So by the time this publishes, Drew will be mentally in the Matrix, watching maybe a James Bond movie, maybe something else.
Maybe. Or just giving up on it and saying, no, this is stupid. I'm going to watch a normal movie.
Maybe you can watch Disney's Gummy Bears. Those have not made a comeback. Have you noticed that?
They haven't.
They brought a lot of things back, not the Gummy Bears.
No. I will say that one of the gummy bears did show up in the new Chip and Dale's movie.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Oh, that's right. I completely forgot about that since the last Pencast we had.
Oh, wait, hold on. I think so.
Look that up.
Maybe he didn't. No, I think I might be lying.
No, I think you said Ugly Sonic's in there.
I think I might be lying because I recently watched a compilation of Jim Cummings' voice acting, and that might have snuck in my brain.
Oh, okay.
Never mind. Yeah, ignore me.
That guy's done freaking everything.
I know. He did one of the Gummy Bears too, which is why it popped into my head. Anyway, okay. I'll watch something maybe. The important thing is we're having a mental health half day, which
we are.
I know we talk about a lot, but we really just have once a month. So
it's once a month. Yeah. It just comes up every 4 pencasts or so. So it seems like a lot, but yeah, I don't know what I'm going to do yet for my half day.
You're going to fix things around the house.
I'm probably going to do some shenanigans outside or around the house or whatever. Chopping something down or putting something up. Mm-hmm. Maybe I'll chop something down and put something up. I don't know.
There you go.
Yeah. And then, we're having some more in-person stuff happening at our company again, which is nice. We've had some lighter restrictions and, because high vaccination rates and all these things, we just got a lot more comfort and ability to do these things now. So going back to doing our company meetings in person for the first time in
I'm so excited.
2.5 years.
And lunch,
company
right?
lunch together.
Yes.
Yep. We will be doing that. Chicken fiesta. Some yuca fries.
I like to call it Pollo Party.
That's a good one too. Yeah. I think I don't know if it's a big chain. I think there's a couple of them around here, but I think it's like a small local chain, but
I don't know.
Fast dish food.
They don't have a drive-through, so it's not that fast.
Yeah, exactly. Fast casual maybe would be considered.
Sure.
Local, fast casual, small chain. Anyway, they do have a couple of them in Richmond. But anyway, we'll be doing that. It's just good. I'm spending more time in the office and just...
Yeah, you have been. You've been here almost every day.
Well, school started, so I'm not having to help around the house as much. So that helps. But anyway, so it's just good to be back. So anyway, that's what we got at company right now. And then we'll go ahead and wrap this sucker up. Well, we want to thank everybody for watching. Number 62. It's amazing. Give us some feedback. Let us know what you think of the show. And you can leave us comments on YouTube is where we're most likely to see it. But you can also email us at pencast@gouletpens.com. Sure to subscribe to our channels and see all the videos and stuff like that. Oh, I forgot to mention the video that we published this week. Dang it. We just did the company updates thing.
Oh, yeah.
You did your video. What video?
Yeah.
What video did you do that we have yet to publish as
best
we're
pens from each brand. So I picked 10 brands and I picked what I thought was the champion of each brand, kind of putting forth what each brand does best in the form of a fountain pen, which actually came from someone who wrote in to pencast@gouletpens.com. Someone asked me what my choice for one pen from each brand
would be. It was a
Pencast
inspired topic.
Exactly. So please, if you do have questions for this Pencast or ideas for any videos, pencast@gouletpens.com. We will see them one way or another.
And then Drew will share his opinion that you may or may not agree with.
And give us questions for the Pencast too, for sure. I know usually I post those on Instagram, but we will see them if you shoot an email to the Pencast email as well.
There you go. And we'll finish this out with my random fun fact. So sea urchins like to pick up seashells and kind of like protect themselves from UV rays and predators.
They can pick things up?
Yeah, apparently. They like wear seashells on their heads, basically.
That's kind of adorable.
Not their heads, but their whatever. They put seashells on top of them. So apparently there's some people, scientists, marine biologists, aquariists, or whatever they're called, a lot of aquariums, including at Epcot, have 3D printed hats for these urchins to wear. So I pulled up a couple pictures for you to see here, Drew.
It's a Viking helmet.
Like a Viking helmet,
Mickey
like
Mouse
cowboy
ears.
hats, and that would be the Epcot ones, yeah.
Oh my God.
So apparently the sea urchins love them, and they use them instead of the shells, and so they're like 3D printing these little hats that these sea urchins are walking around.
That is amazing.
Wearing, there you go, anthropomorphizing our sea urchins, but it's pretty friggin' adorable.
This is the best fun fact you've ever had.
I thought this is pretty adorable to share. So
I really like that.
Yeah, we can share. These aren't our pictures, but whatever. You can just Google it, or maybe we'll throw some in the video here. We try not to use pictures that aren't ours, but whatever. It's pretty adorable. No. So go look it up. Sea urchin hats.
It's amazing.
And it'll definitely make your day.
Yes.
Thanks so much for watching, everybody.
There they are. I didn't even see
you
them.
printed it out. You didn't even see it.
This is the last
Well,
page.
you don't really know what it is unless you explain.
That's true. I would be like, what the heck are you doing, guys?
The sea urchin is wearing a cowboy hat.
That
It's
is
so
amazing.
Funny. Yeah. Anyway, that's all we got for you this week. Thanks so much for watching, and right on.